Good evening. Welcome to the October 7th, 2020 regular meeting of the Gary Common Council. This time we will begin with a word of prayer, as is our custom, by Councilman at Large Ronald.
Mr. President, today is the 6th, not the 7th.
I stand corrected, October 6th.
Today is the 6th, not the 7th.
Thank you, I stand corrected.
Shall we pray? Father God, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for this day. We thank you for another day that we have not seen before, God. Lord, we ask as we gather to do the business that you have allowed us to be appointed to, oh God, to be focused, oh God. Oh God, it's not about us, but it's about the citizens of this great city of Gary, oh God. And Lord, right now we ask that you continue to protect, continue to direct right now, oh God. We ask for special blessings on the bereaved families, oh God, of this great city. We have seen an uptick in violence in this city, oh God, and we ask that you will come in and you will intervene right now. And Lord, we ask a special blessing and a special prayer over the Pratt family, oh God, our former colleague of this great council, oh God. We ask that you bless Miss Pratt. I ask that you bless the entire family right now as they bereaved, oh God. We ask right now in your son, Jesus' name, that you would guide us and direct us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councilman Brewer. This time we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Here.
Councilman Brewer.
Here.
Here.
Councilwoman Brown.
Present.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Here.
Councilman Godwin.
Present.
Councilman Lay.
Present.
Councilman Weatherspoon.
Here.
Councilman Williams. Councilman Williams.
He's muted.
Thanks, Cloris. Yeah, here.
And President Brown. Mr. President, there is 8 present, 1 absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With 8 members present and 1 absent, we have a quorum to conduct the business of the Gary Common Council. Members, before you are the minutes of our September 1, 2020 meeting. Is there a motion to approve said minutes?
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve minutes.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Brown. Any questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Councilman Brewer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown.
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
Councilman Lay.
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
And President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 8-0, the minutes for our September 1, 2020 meeting stand approved. Council members, before you are the minutes of our September 15, 2020 council meeting. Is there a motion to approve said minutes?
Mr. President, I make a motion for approval.
It's been moved by Councilman Brewer. Is there a second?
Second.
And seconded by Council members Williams and Weatherspoon. Any questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Councilman Brewer.
He's muted.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, the minutes of our September 15th, 2020 meeting stand approved. Assignment of council pending ordinances and resolutions on first reading.
CPO 2020-57, an ordinance authorizing a transfer of funds within a 101 general fund for the Gary Common Council, sponsored by the Gary Common Council.
Finance.
Mr. President, point of order.
Councilman Lay.
Okay, again, I know it's the messenger, not the message. This ordinance was prepared by council staff, and it also indicates that the entire council is in support. I was not aware of this until very recently, so I'm not going to ask you to send it back. But again, I think it's in violation of Indiana Code 36-4-9-12, paragraph 4. What I'm going to ask you to do is to ask the clerk or someone to remove my name as sponsoring it. I will not sponsor any legislation that is being prepared by the council staff. And again, I would hope that anytime that they say the council, the entire council is sponsoring something, I at least get a courtesy call to determine if I do want to sponsor it. In this case, I do not, because I do not think it's properly before the council.
Right.
And I thought we cleared that up in January, but apparently the message was not received because of the messenger.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Lay. Please note that change. We'll make sure it is changed before it moves forward. But duly noted. That is to finance. Please proceed, Madam Clerk.
CPO 2020-58, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Brian and Janet Dolman, 4350 West Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana. Property at 3314 West Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana.
Planning and Development.
CPO 2020-59, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioners Holly Jones and Mark Mueller, 402 Pearl Street, Michigan City, Indiana. Property at 8618 Pine Avenue, Gary, Indiana.
Planning and Development.
CPO 2020-60, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petition Anna Martinez, 6101 East 6th Place, Gary, Indiana. Property at 6101 East 6th Place, Gary, Indiana.
Planning and Development.
CPO 2020-61, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Eugenia German, 372 Arthur Street, Gary, Indiana. Property at 372 Arthur Street, Gary, Indiana.
Planning and Development.
CPO 2020-62, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Mary Hubbard Bobo, 7734 Ida Avenue, Hobart, Indiana. Property at 3978 Martin Luther King Drive, Gary, Indiana.
Planning and Development.
CPO 2020-63, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Cheryl Moss Alexander, 3615 Carolina Street, Gary, Indiana. Property at 3615 Carolina Street, Gary, Indiana.
Planning and Development.
CPO 2020-64, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Kiera Jackson, 7534 Jomo Drive, Weeki, Florida. Property at 1954 Madison Lane, Gary, Indiana.
Planning and Development.
CPO 2020-65, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Nicola Kontaski, 127 North Broad Street, Griffith, Indiana. Property at 320 West Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana.
Planning and Development.
CPO 2020-66, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Marquita Cox, P.O. Box 931, Sherville, Indiana. Property at 719 West 51st Place, Gary, Indiana.
Planning and Development.
CPO 2020-67, an ordinance revising 2020 appropriations for the Police Department Operating Budgets Fund 254 Auction Fund for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2020, ending December 31st, 2020, sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary.
Finance.
CPO 2020-69, an ordinance approving the amendment of garbage collection fees for users located in the City of Gary, sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary.
Ways and Means.
CPR 2020-16, a resolution of the Gary Common Council in support of Red Ribbon Week proclamation and establishing October 23rd through the 31st, 2020 as Red Ribbon Week in Gary, Indiana. Sponsored by Linda Barnes Caldwell, Councilwoman of the 5th District, Gary Common Council.
Public Safety.
CPR 2020-17, Gary Common Council resolution in support of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Sponsored by Linda Barnes Caldwell, Councilwoman of the 5th District, Gary Common Council.
Public Safety.
Mr. President, is assigned opinion ordinances and resolutions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilwoman Brown.
Mr. President, the Finance Committee has before it CPO 2020-57. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell. Councilwoman Caldwell. Yes. And Councilman Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, a majority of the Finance Committee has approved CPO 2020-57 for reporting out to the council.
Do you want to go ahead and do CPO 2020-67?
She's muted.
Oh,
Finance
President.
Committee has before it
Oh, she
CPO
got it. Okay.
2020-67. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell
Yes.
and Councilman Godwin.
yes.
Mr. President, majority of the Finance Committee has approved CPO 2020-67 for reporting out to the council.
Thank you, Councilwoman Brown. Councilman Brewer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning and Development has before CPO 2020-58, 2020-59, 2020-60, 2020-61, 2020-62, 2020-63, 2020-64, 2020-65, 2020-66. Mr. President, I approve these ordinances reported out on first reading. Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon.
Yes.
Mr. President, majority of the Planning Development Committee has approved ordinances, CPO ordinances that were just reported out. So many.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Brewer. Our Planning Committee Chair is going to be very busy.
Very.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Mr. President, the Ways and Means Committee has before it CPO 2020-69. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilman Weatherspoon.
Yes.
Mr. President, a majority of the Ways and Means Committee has approved CPO 2020-69 for reporting out to the council.
Thank you, Councilwoman Atkins. Councilman Williams.
Mr. President, I'm looking at CPR 2020, 16, and 17. don't feel that that should go to Ways and Means instead of Public Safety?
It can. I just did it because it was domestic violence related, but it doesn't matter to me.
Okay, I would request that that go to Ways and Means.
Okay. Councilwoman Atkins, would you like to consider CPR 2016 and CPR 2017?
Sure, if there's no objections, no problem.
Please proceed. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. President, the Ways and Means Committee has before it CPR 2020-16 and CPR 2020-17. For the record, I approve both of these resolutions for report out to the council. So I guess Councilman Weatherspoon.
Yes.
Mr. President, a majority of the Ways and Means Committee has approved CPR 2020-16 as well as CPR 2020-17 for reporting out to the council.
Thank you, Councilwoman Atkins. Councilwoman Brown.
Mr. President, the Finance Committee has before it CPO 2020-57. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
We don't have to vote again.
Right.
Thank you.
A point of order, Mr. President.
Councilman Lay.
I received a communication from Chief of Staff Arlene Colvin saying they wanted to withdraw 67 and also the ordinance. 67 is the police ordinance. And I did speak to the Police Commission's administrative or executive secretary, and they sent to the council indicating they would take up 2020-67. And as I understand, the Fire Commission is taking up, and I don't see the ordinance number here, they're taking theirs up. But I did receive a communication, and I'm sure if it was sent to me, it was sent to the rest of the council, where the city is asking to withdraw until the Fire and the Police Commission make a decision.
I think you're referring to
Yep.
2020-40 and 2020-46, which are on third and final.
Right.
So those we are going to remove from the.
Oh,
we're gonna-
okay.
All right. I think Councilman Brown, we didn't need to do a vote again, but you're just we're reporting out.
I'm sorry.
So you're just reporting out CPO 2020-57.
57, right.
Okay, and then also CPO.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot, I have two. Okay, 2020, just a second.
67. Mhm.
Yeah, 67. Right, CPO 2057, CPO 2020-67. For the record, I approve these two ordinances for reporting out to the council.
Thank you, Councilwoman Brown. Councilman Brewer.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Planning Development Committee would like to report out for the record on first reading, 2020-58, 2020-59, 2020-60, 2020-61, 2020-62, 2020-63, 2020-64, 2020-65, 2020-66, and that's it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. Councilwoman Atkins.
Mr. President, the Ways and Means Committee will report out the following: CPO 2020-69, CPR 2020-16, CPR 2020-17. Mr. President, for the record, I approve these to be reported out to the council.
Thank you, Councilwoman Atkins. This time we will have our special and select. Any members for special and select?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Atkins.
the 4th District held its community meeting this past Friday, October the 2nd. I just want to take a moment to thank the residents who did come out to attend that. We had a great time, reviewed our year one goals and those objectives that we worked towards accomplishing those goals. We also reviewed our Youth 2 initiatives as well. So I'm looking forward to working with the residents of the 4th District as we move to 2021. I want to give a special thanks to the General Manager of the Railcats organization, Mr. Brian Flinner, as well as the events manager at the Railcats organization, Yvonne Lopez, for your hospitality and for sponsoring the catered meals that were received on Friday. Just for those residents who were not able to attend, we will be showing the community meeting on our Gary cable stations as well as social media. Also, there was a PowerPoint presentation that was reviewed. If you want that information, please reach out to the Gary Common Council office, to my administrative assistant, Karen Lane, and we will email that or mail it to you. Our next forum will not be until 2021, and it will be scheduled sometime in February. I do want to extend condolences to the family of Miss Jill Williams. Miss Jill Williams, some of you might know her. She was active politically for a number of years and throughout the Edna community. She is a 1st District resident, Mr. President, actually. I personally had a direct connection to her. Her daughter and I went to school together. And when I was running for office, she did take the time to speak life into me as my promise as a future leader within the city of Gary. So I'm so grateful to have encountered her genuine spirit. I just want to send some words of comfort to her husband as well as her daughter, Jory Williams and Chaz. She was funeralized this past Saturday. I did want to make a couple of comments about things that has been happening within our city and specifically within my district. So since the 27th of September, from my recollection, very recently, there's been a cadence of deaths and homicides throughout the city. From the shootout that was occurred at the Loft, which I think took place on the 27th, to the killing that happened in the 4th District off of 7th and Delaware last Friday. There was a homicide in the Glen Park area yesterday. It seems like every day it's been out of control. In addition to that, I was notified via Facebook this morning that there was a tragic fatal fire that also happened within my district, I believe in Maryland. A 6-year-old baby lost her life this morning. And I want to send my condolences to all of those who have been experiencing tragic loss, and especially the family that perished in the fire this morning. I know it has been requested in the past from the council, I believe more recently in the April council meeting, to receive some type of report from the administration related to the homicides that have been happening, related to like a public safety strategy that we're focusing on. And so I'm still unclear as to where we are in terms of the trends of homicide. And I believe comparable to last year, we are substantially higher than where we were at this exact same moment last year. So I would like to plead for some information related to that. As it relates to, the tragic loss this morning, I want to be clear. I'm not stating this to incorporate or blame her for anything, but I want to plead to my colleagues that, as a council, we have to ensure that we're doing everything within our power to make sure that our public safety personnel, specifically the Gary Fire Department, is equipped and staffed appropriately to handle the volume of needs within the city within a timely manner. I saw an article that mentioned that the rig or the truck that was at Station 1, which was close to where the fire was at this morning, was at another call. And so it took, it was idle time in terms of getting to that location. Again, it's not to blame, but I just wanted to put that as a point. If there's anything that we can do from a financing standpoint or working with the administration going forward, just to ensure that we have appropriate staff to make sure that lives are not perished and such. Again, I just want to plead that we do receive insight from the administration on the thoughts related to the influx of homicide within the city, because myself, I'm receiving a lot of calls and requests from constituents as to what are we doing to address those concerns. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Atkins. Usually I try to wait till everyone has spoken, but I do want to follow up and extend my condolences as well to Ms. Jill Williams, who was a very passionate and engaged precinct committee woman in the Edna area of the 1st District. And certainly we salute her for all of her service and send our condolences to her family. I just wanted to say that really quickly as a point of continuity. Any other members for special and select?
Yes, Mr. President, Dwight Williams, 6th District Councilman. I'd like to announce that there's going to be a 6th District Community Forum Wednesday, October 21st. The meeting will start at 6 o'clock p.m. and end at 8, and it will be via Zoom meeting. I'm gonna try to give the meeting ID out because I get a lot of people that call me and they say, oh, I didn't get the meeting ID from the robocall. So I'm gonna say it really slow. 868 is the meeting ID is 868-2968-0055. And the passcode is 864009. And also, Councilwoman Atkins, I have been speaking with our deputy chief of police, and that we're scheduling a meeting this week to discuss the homicides as well. So once that meeting is scheduled, I'll definitely give you a call so you can attend it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you,
Mr.
Councilman Williams.
Mr.
And
President,
Councilwoman Brown.
yeah, I would just like to take this opportunity to extend my sincerest condolences to the family of Roy Pratt, to Beverly and her sons, and the entire Pratt family. I served on the council with Roy for the entire time that I've been on the city council, and he was a tremendous help to me. He used to always say to me, I'd say, Roy, I don't think I know where to find this. And he'd say, Beverly told me to throw all this stuff away, and I haven't thrown it away. So I know where it is, and I have it. And he would always find it and get it to me. So he was a tremendous help to me. He had a sense of humor. He had a tremendous sense of humor. And, you know, he would always say to me, when we were getting ready to leave to go to a conference, he'd say, now, when we get there, don't find me, okay? I don't want to see you when we get there. And when I would get there, and by the time I got my luggage unpacked, he'd be on the phone. What are you doing for dinner? I said, I thought you didn't want me to find you. But he was just a wonderful person. I loved Roy. Roy was my friend. And so I want to extend my sincerest condolences to Beverly and the boys. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Brown.
Mr.
Councilman
President.
Lay.
Yes, for the president of continuity, I will want to speak later. I have known Roy for approximately 62 years. We knew each other in high school, and he graduated in 1957 from Roosevelt. I came out of Frable in 58. We both were at Indiana University, Bloomington in 1962. I had went into service and I came back, was released from the Air Force after serving 4 years in the Air Force. It goes without saying, Roy and I have been friends during this entire period of time. On occasions, as most friends do, we have disagreed, but I served with him from 1996 to 2000 on the council myself. And I absolutely agree with everything that, other than I don't know those private conversations Councilwoman Brown had with Mr. Pratt. What I would suggest, and I understand I'm making the recommendation, I would suggest there be a consideration of naming the council chambers after Mr. Pratt. Certainly, other than Mr. Cleo Wesson, no one served as much time as Councilman Pratt. He served from 1983, and I played a part in his initial election because I ran Dozier Allen's political team. But I would think that someone put it in planning, forget the source of the recommendation, and put it somewhere where it can be considered renaming the lounge. I'm sorry, the chambers itself. We did it. I made the same recommendation in 1999 to name the lounge after Cleo Wesson. And I think we certainly should do this for Councilman Roy Pratt. And as I indicated, I will want to speak later on and ask some questions on a couple of things. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Lay. I think that's a great idea, and certainly we'll see if we can make that happen with our colleagues. And he also was a resident of the 1st District, and I was honored to meet him on a couple of occasions. And certainly we celebrate anyone who has served that long on this body, and I think that would be a fitting and proper thing for us to do. Any other members for special and select?
Mr. President,
Sorry. Go ahead.
Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell and then Councilman Weatherspoon.
okay. I would like to make a motion at this time for CPR 2020-15. I would like to move to have it, have the veto overwritten.
There's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any questions or discussion?
I don't have a problem with it. I thought you usually get that from the clerk, vetoes immediately.
We do. So we have a letter that we received.
No, I mean, on our agenda, that would be one of the first things the council would be asked to do. That's all I was referring to. They would be asked to do that first.
Oh, I didn't know it was a certain position it was supposed to be addressed on.
Mr.
No,
Chair,
Attorney Williams?
no, I think Attorney Lay was about to allude to that. That's just customary. There is no certain time. It just has to be done during this meeting.
Thank you, Attorney Williams. Any other questions or discussion?
I have one since it's on the, I assumed it was second. Was it second?
Yes.
Okay, the motion was second. I believe I'm going to vote no to override the mayor's veto. I believe I've fulfilled my obligation to the city. I sent out a great deal, and I'm going to call it literature concerning my position on the referendum where I asked that this community vote no. The literature that I sent out contained 3 typos. I am absolutely responsible for the errors. What happened, my computer got tied up and I had to text it, and it was necessary to retype it in order for it to go to word perfect. Please don't ask me why. I didn't fully understand, but I was told that. The person typing it was typing it while they were in a meeting, which of course is not the best way to do your work when you're attempting to do 2 things.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
I'm sorry, is just pertaining to the,
Unless I thought you were talking about the resolution.
we're getting ready to vote on it to veto it.
Right. I'm explaining my position on it, as opposed to vote without explaining my position.
You just said that you were voting no.
No. Why I'm voting no? Now, am I out of line? Again, it's the messenger. I understand. Am I out of line, Mr. President?
Please proceed. I think you have the right to proceed.
Yes.
Mr. President, just a
Councilman
point of
Brewer.
order. I think we need to do this the right way. I think we need a clear overview what this is that we're voting on for the public. Not to cut off Mr. Lay, but we need a clear overview of what we're voting on at this time for the public view also.
I have no objection to that going first.
So essentially, and I'll defer to, we did receive a letter that the resolution CPR 2020-15 which was a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Gary expressing support for the Gary Community School Corporation's tax referendum, which this body passed with a 5-2 vote at our last meeting. It was not signed by the mayor, which is essentially a pocket veto. And the clerk informed us that we essentially have to, if we're going to proceed with the integrity of our resolution, that this would be the meeting at which we would vote again. And of course, that requires 6 votes. And the resolution is an expression of support for the tax referendum. And this motion is to override that veto.
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Brown?
I'm sorry, I neglected to say this. On yesterday, Pastor Eric Boone over at Tree of Life was kind enough to allow me to have a meeting at his church. It was just called on the spur of the moment, but we were fortunate enough to have several participants. And so I want to thank Pastor Boone for being kind enough to allow us to have a meeting there. We talked, and the meeting dealt with the resolution. And so it was yesterday. And I want to publicly thank Pastor Boone for being so kind. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Brown. So I guess, unless there's any other overview, Any other questions or discussion?
Will you return it to me, Mr. President?
Sure, Councilman Lay.
Again, I believe I've completely satisfied my obligation to this community. I sent out literature, and I would like to explain. There are 3 errors there. It was retyped by an individual, but I am absolutely responsible for the errors because I had to proofread it. There were several errors, maybe a dozen or so. One of the errors I regret is in the first paragraph of the literature I sent out. Mr. Witherspoon's first name was misspelled. I had it correct. It was Cozy. It was changed to Corey, and I missed that one. They also used the wrong principal. They should have used the principal that ended in LE, and as opposed to AL, and I missed that also. But I think the real problem that I missed was that the current debt of the Gary Public School System is not 79 million that is being alleged, it's 94 million. The figure on the literature was 9 million. The 4 was dropped and I missed it. And the 94 million comes from Gateway. So basically I felt an obligation to say that. Another, very briefly, people have asked me, and I've attempted to explain it, if the resolution does not pass in terms of the taxpayers, that there is no alternative. That is not true. I'm going to say it very slow. In Senate Bill 567, which was signed by the governor of this state on April the 28th, 2017, there was a provision already in the bill for the DUAB, Distress Unit Appeals Board, to go to the State Board of Finance. Apparently, maybe it's the one setting over the rainy day for, I don't know. And the purpose was to go there in order to provide the Gary Community School Corporation with money. In other words, they could go there and they could make the request. The previous emergency manager, Dr. Hingley, as well as the various financial individuals, was asked why you're not using this opportunity to ask for money. They never gave a creditable reason for not doing it. They simply would only go to DUAB for money they needed, I would assume, to pay their salaries. I can't see where they were getting money for any other purpose, and maybe to pay the employees. So they did that correct. Another error that is being made, or it's incomplete, House Bill 1065. Now let's be clear on that. 1065 is where they have postponed payments on the debt up to an amount of $25 million. That money is not from the state. That is our money. That is the taxpayers' money. At the end of the, let's say, 5 years, we will still owe whatever the figure is, whether it's the 79 million, as the emergency manager is saying, whether it's the 84 million that Mr. Tolliver is saying, or the 94 million, which is on the official website called Gateway. So this community has already contributed, or is currently contributing, by postponing the debt. And let me give an example, and then that will conclude what I'm about to say. If you go to a dealership, in many cases, they will tell you, you do not have to make your first payment for 90 days, but the entire amount of the vehicle has to be paid for. Let's say they gave you 72 months. You must pay for it within the 72 months. So again, they have failed to exercise, going to the State Board of, DUAB has, going to the State Board of Accounts and asking for the money. The school board could not do that because on April the 28th, 2017, the school board no longer, they took the school board, took the school district and put it under the emergency manager, MGT. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Lay. Any other questions or discussion? Again, this is maybe Attorney Williams will want to shed some light. I think it requires 6 votes to overturn a veto. And again, just for public reference, this is reiterating our support for the referendum resolution that this body passed, the majority of members of this body passed at our last council meeting. Do you want to add anything, Attorney Williams?
Only that's correct. It will require the 2/3, which represents 6 votes, and that a yes vote represents your intent to override the pocket veto.
Thank you, Attorney Williams. Seeing no other questions or discussion, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
No.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
No.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes. Yes.
President voted 6 yes, 2 no's.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 6 yea and 2 nay, the mayor's veto is overridden. Any other members for special and select?
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay?
are we going to consider, where will we consider the mayor's, where he in fact vetoed the CBA, this Community Benefit Agreement ordinance?
Well, we can do that now. I don't think, I know I'm one of the co-sponsors. I don't intend to make a motion to reconsider it. I think, I'll just speak on it since you mentioned it. I don't think it was very smart because now, of course, we have the original CBA ordinance, which was much more restrictive. I'm getting a little feedback from someone. We tried to work with
Mr.
the
President, point of
administration.
order, in order to have a discussion of an ordinance or anything, it should be moved and then second. I will
Well, we're in
move it.
special and select, and so I'm just going to give you my open discussion
Okay.
about it.
ahead.
So as I was saying, we worked with the administration, at least I thought we did, for all summer, which I guess was a waste of time or maybe some enlightenment in the process. But it went on for months, and we considered a variety of ideas that were suggested, most of which was implemented. And so it was vetoed. And all that means is that the original ordinance stands, which is far more restrictive, far more pro-community benefits. And so I suppose the next time we have a tax abatement or when we need to reconsider the tax abatement that was granted after the passage of this ordinance in December of 2019 to Broadway Lofts, then we'll have to take that up then. But I'm comfortable with the original ordinance if the mayor does not want us to go forward with the amendments that included the vast majority of the changes that Mr. Pohl and others in his administration recommended.
Mr. President, may I speak at this point?
Absolutely.
If you go back and look at, it says, please be advised at 9348, and it says he has vetoed it, you will find within that document, it says sponsored by Gloria Slay, Councilman at Large, and Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary. I had indicated that I wanted to withdraw my amendment and make it clear what was going on. As a result, confusion does exist within this document. I would appreciate, whether it's voted on or not, that the clerk be requested to correct the document under the veto. As a matter of fact, I called the mayor. He's quite clear of what he was vetoing. He was vetoing the amendment of the 15th of September, and the sponsors at that time was Councilwoman Atkins, Councilman Ron Brewer, and Councilman Godwin. So again, if nothing else, I would appreciate if that could be corrected to show that I was not the sponsor of the September 15th meeting.
Thank you, and I agree. So I know our deputy clerk is on, so if we could make that correction, I don't know how we might want to ratify it because it was signed by everybody, but it does need to be corrected because that was changed.
Right. In other words, that passed, I might have been 6-2. I'm
Right.
not sure. I think Councilman Williams may have been absent, but I believe it was may have been 6-1. I'm sorry, I said 6-2.
I believe it
Again,
was 6-1. That's right.
you're right. That should be corrected, and that's again, and I understand the message and the messenger. Again, this is what I was trying to say, and I said it more than once, that the process was getting very confusing as to what was going on because we left an amendment and then we amended the amendment, which is probably too many amendments. But again, I don't want to argue your procedure because I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. But there is an error here, and I think it
Mr. President,
result of
Councilman
that.
Brewer?
it seems like that's a technical error on the clerk's side, and we voted and we made the proper amendments on the floor, and it's inside of our record, and it seems like that just needs to be changed on her end, since Mr. Lake pointed that out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But again, I'm trying to show you, Mr. Brewer, why I believe the clerk got it confused.
Well, whether she got it confused or not, we know what we did on the floor, and we have a record to reflect that. We can always pull the tape to see exactly what
But
took place.
again, I understand you need to interrupt the messenger.
was the
Please let me conclude. Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go
Deputy
ahead.
Clerk Reynolds?
Mr. President, that was the amendment that was brought with the signatures on. That was the
I
amendment
understand.
with the signatures
So
on.
I think this was the form, the last form that we received. So what I would suggest is that we just, I guess we can just correct it for the record, maybe as an attachment to this veto, maybe a notice and then another printed form, and just with a memorandum of what all took place, and just note the changes that were made during the meeting. Because Councilman Lay is absolutely correct, and the record should be accurate.
Yeah, also, Mr. President, I think any council person should be given the courtesy, no matter whether it's me or any other member of the council, to simply indicate, I'm not blaming anyone. What I'm suggesting, and of course, again, I'm sure my procedure is incorrect, that should this come up again and someone wanted to withdraw an amendment, I believe they should be allowed to withdraw that, not some kind of substitute going here, and you simply get rid of that one. And I do not believe maybe that will keep the mistake from being made. That was my only purpose. That's my only purpose. So as Mr. Brewer said, we know what we have done, but we constantly know what we have done, but we seem to change it in the middle of the stream, i.e. 2020-57. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. And I'll just say, as you may recall, I voted with you.
Right. Yeah.
You should be able to do that, because I'd like to be able to do that in the future. But that's just, we can sometimes have different opinions about it, but I think members should be able to withdraw their own amendments. Okay. So I think any other members for special and select? I will just.
Mr. President.
I'm sorry, Councilman Brewer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also want to send my condolences out to the Pratt family. I got a chance to meet Mr. Pratt way before I sat as a councilman at large here. We started on the cleanup committee inside the city, and that was a great pleasure to meet Councilman Pratt. Thank you. And once I got decided that I was going to run for councilman at large, and out there on the campaign trail, Councilman Pratt came to me and pulled me to the side and said, if I should lose this race and I should lose it to you, I think I'm losing to a good person. And I just didn't take that lightly. I thought that was highly for him to say something of that by me never holding political office, that Mr. Pratt would look to me as a person that can possibly lead the city. And ultimately, I won the seat here on the council. I sit now, as I used to sit for 4 years right next to Councilman Pratt. And now I sit now in his seat. It's just amazing. Now I sit in his seat. He was the parliamentarian of the council, and now I sit and I hold that position, that title now on the council. And I don't take it lightly. Councilman Pratt was someone, he was a lot of fun to sit next to. I mean, it was a lot of times I had to mute this mic quite often and mute mine and mute his. But Councilman Pratt was just a tremendous person to be around. I enjoyed traveling with Councilman Pratt. As Councilwoman Brown said, I got the same speech. Don't look for me, I'll look for you. I remember one time we was in DC and we had finished up our class. At least I had finished up my classes, and Councilman Brown along with that. Was two incidents there. We was inside of the program and they was calling all the names of awards. And Councilman Pratt kept getting all these awards. And we was wondering how was Councilman Pratt getting all these different awards there. But he was tremendous, but he received all these different awards. The second thing was I want to go see the Martin Luther King statue in DC. And we had finished up everything, and Councilman, I want to take the taxi there, and he said, well, we take the train and we can walk there. We didn't realize how far it was from that train station. And I don't know if I made the wrong turn or he made the wrong turn, but at the end of that walk, we didn't make it. Let's just say that we didn't make it. And he looked at me and we had walked so long, I think we walked 20 blocks. And if you ever been to DC, they have 20 long blocks. He looked at me and he was so tired. He said, we're taking a taxi. And as soon as we get home, I'm telling Beverly on you, because I had him walking all them long blocks. But that was something I would definitely remember about Councilman Pratt. The time that we sat and we dined together, he was just a great person to be around. And he would truly be missed on this council. And I agree with Councilman Lay. If we could take a vote tonight, I think it would definitely be in order to name the chambers after the second longest serving councilman in the city, Councilman Roy Pratt, after him. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. I just wanted to quickly announce that out of redevelopment, they have a bike and pedestrian way program. The Gary Redevelopment Department and Gary Redevelopment Commission have been awarded a planning grant from the Indiana State Department Division of Nutrition and Physical Activity to develop a city-wide bicycle and pedestrian master plan. It's an exciting opportunity to identify priorities and position the city for additional funding for infrastructure and health-related projects. They're asking each of our council members, especially district council members, to connect with them over the next 2 weeks as a way toward community engagement with their consultant to bring us individually up to speed on what the plans are in our individual districts and to get our thoughts and input and suggestions about the needs of our constituents. So please be on the lookout, members, for a communication that came from Ms. Deb Backus, who works with the redevelopment department. It's a great mobility opportunity. We know that being able to walk and having a walkable and rideable city is a great asset for us. And so congratulations to them on receiving that grant. I just wanted to also remind everyone that early voting has begun. Vote, vote, vote. You can vote early at the Genesis Convention Center right here in downtown Gary, started today, October 6th through October 31st. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 a.m. until 7 p.m. And of course, Election Day is on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. I'm encouraging everyone, if you can, mask up, glove up, and vote up early. Vote early to avoid any long lines, any confusion. If you find out your name isn't on the list, you'll have time to make proper corrections, get a provisional ballot, what have you, but you don't want to wait to the last minute. So October 6th through the 31st, vote early at the Gary Genesis Convention Center, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday from 9 to 4, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 to 7. Lastly, I did want to ask, I want to make sure, I see that Attorney Colvin is on, whether, I know sometimes people log off toward the end. Will you be here or someone from the administration to answer questions or do a mayor's report? Attorney Colvin, I just want to check, because if you're not going to be here, I would talk about it now.
I'll be here.
Thank you. That's all for me. Any other members for special and select? Okay. Council pending ordinances and.
Mr. President, are we going to take, Are we going to take up the CBA agreement that was vetoed?
I don't intend to, and unless another member wants to make a motion to override the veto. I'm okay with the original version.
Well, it has to be made in the affirmative.
In this meeting, right?
Yes, it has to be made in the affirmative. I will make a motion to override the veto, although that's not where my vote is going to go, but it has to be in the affirmative though. So I move that the mayor's written veto on 9348 be overridden. A yes vote would be to override it, a no vote would be not to override it. And I need a second.
Was that the second? Councilman Witherspoon? Okay. It's been moved and seconded to override the mayor's veto of the community benefits agreement. Is there any question or discussion at this time?
Yes, Mr. President, could you read the mayor's reason for vetoing?
Yes. Okay, please be advised that ordinance number 9348 entitled an amendment to the community benefits agreement ordinance. This is incorrect. It should be sponsored by council members Godwin, Brewer, and Atkins. And Mayor, I guess it wouldn't be Mayor Jerome Prince, but in any event, was passed by the Gary Common Council on September 15th, 2020. The ordinance was submitted to Mayor Prince for signature on September 22nd, 2020, and returned to the clerk's office on October 1 with the attached veto letter. That letter reads, "Dear Clerk Rags, this correspondence serves as official notification of my veto of CPO 2020-39, that's 9348. This ordinance violates the separation of powers between the legislative and executive branches of city government under the Indiana Code by creating a common council control commission that usurps the city's executive authority to negotiate and enter into economic development contracts for the city of Gary. Respectfully, Jerome Prince, Mayor, City of Gary." Any other questions or discussion?
There, just point, or is there going to be an overview of that amendment?
I guess, I mean, I didn't make the motion, but I mean, look, I think that and maybe Councilwoman Atkins may want to, but she doesn't. But I will just say that, as I said earlier, as one of the three sponsors, even though we have to fix that technicality, the original ordinance passed in December of 2019 was far more restrictive, far more difficult in terms of economic development, if that was the concern, that it was an inhibition to economic development, than this amended version. And so my effort, along with others, was to say we didn't vote to repeal the ordinance that was passed in December, but we pursued an amendment. And what started as a change in that Councilman Lay was putting forward in terms of who would sit on this committee expanded into a far greater set of changes that Mr. Pohl presented to us on behalf of the administration. There were a lot of changes. We worked, 2 months on this, I guess, back and forth, multiple committee meetings. Mr. Pohl didn't say that the legislation was a conflict between the roles of the legislative and executive branches. He, in fact, contributed 90% of the changes, other than the changes that Councilman Lay initially included before that got changed, in terms of who and how people would sit. So it's disturbing to me that we would basically, I love my time. I have a lot of things I could do with it, but to waste 2 months trying to work with the administration on implementing, it's in there, the majority of these changes, only to then get a veto with no alternative legislation or language offered. Just a post de facto condemnation of what the administration's legal counsel gave to us, and did not offer or pass any judgment about its, reach of constitutionality upon our review and passage of it. So, Yeah,
but point of order, Mr. President, and again,
Councilman Lay?
Okay, there was an attempt, and again, like Mr. Brewer says, we know what we did, but we have to make it clear. There was an attempt to, in fact, withdraw the amendment.
Mhm.
It disappeared. So there was an additional amendment, I guess an amendment of the amendment that came through. And again, I'm not a spokesman for Mayor Prince, but I do on occasions, they have conversations with him. I do not hide that. So again, you may be absolutely correct, but what Mr. Poe did in behalf of the administration, it was not necessarily adopted. What I suggested was absolutely not adopted. So again, the only thing I was asking was for an overview. I'm assuming if anyone else other than me had asked for an overview, then again, it would be given. I understood you did not want to make the motion to override the veto. I don't have a problem with it. But there are 4 other individuals that voted in the affirmative for it. So again, I was just making it so we simply can do 2 things: correct the sponsorships and simply get rid of it. I assume the mayor and his administration know fully well they're reverting back to 9305. I believe it's 93, 98. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure they realize they're reverting back to that. So again, if there's no need for an overview among the majority of the individuals that, in fact, voted for the amendment, you can call roll call and we can see if it's overridden.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? And just, I guess, to keep track, what we're doing now is hearing a motion to override the mayor's veto of the amendment to the community benefits agreement. A vote for yes would be a vote to override that veto, and a vote for no would be to not override that veto. Okay, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
No.
Councilman Brewer,
No.
Councilwoman Brown, Councilwoman Brown,
He's muted.
No.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
No.
Councilman Lay,
No.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
No.
Councilman Williams,
I just want to make it clear, Mr. President, no is to not vote for the veto, correct? To go against the veto?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. No.
President Godwin.
No.
Mr. President, the vote is 0 yes, 8 no's.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With 0 yes and 8 nays, the veto of the CBA amendment stands, and therefore the original ordinance remains in effect. All right. I think at this time, we will now move to council pending ordinances and resolutions on 3rd and or final reading.
CPO 2020-30, an ordinance of the Gary Common Council creating the City of Gary Youth Council, sponsored by Linda Barnes Caldwell, Councilwoman of the 5th District.
President,
Councilwoman Atkins.
there should be an addition to my name as well as a sponsor on this.
Okay, can we note that correction on the ordinance, Madam Clerk?
Okay, is that with the amendment?
Yes, what was submitted last week.
Okay, the amendment will have to be passed first before the name is added on.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Attorney Williams.
it needs to be, if there was indeed an amendment, there needs to be a motion to amend by substitution.
So is there a motion to amend CPO 2020-30 by substitution?
Yes, Mr. President, we would like to amend CPO 2020-30 by substitution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Atkins. Any questions or discussion?
Question, Mr. President.
Councilman Lay?
Where is the motion for substitution? Do you have it? I'm not sure I have it.
I believe it is.
Vote in the affirmative, but I don't have the motion for substitution.
I'm going to pull it now.
And does the clerk have it? Does the clerk have the motion for substitution?
Yes, it was in your package.
It's in the package? Okay. Yes, I do have it. It's dated today. It's dated today's date.
Okay.
It says it was amended on today's date. That's fine.
Okay, yep. Any other questions or discussion? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
There's no overview?
Do you want to do an overview of the amendment by
No,
substitution?
if you don't want to do an overview, no. I thought that was pretty much standard procedure.
It is. I know we're gonna then have another motion on it as amended by substitution. I'll turn to Councilwoman Atkins. I'm sorry, both of you, Council members Burns, Caldwell, and Atkins.
Councilwoman Atkins, would you like to do an overview?
Yeah, I can.
I got mine in here.
Okay. All right, this is an overview for CPO 2020-30. So this was brought back to committee and we've worked on firming up some additional details that was needed. The establishment of the Gary Youth Council is to provide an authentic conduit for us to engage with genuine youth engagement with our city leaders and also offer programming to help develop leadership and character within the youth of our community. We have formulated a curriculum that will cover 4 pillars of the Gary Youth Council. Those pillars are government, leadership, service, as well as life skills. Within the programming, we have decided that the council should consist of up to 11 student members. The requirements of being a part of the youth council are as follows. They should be a current resident of the city of Gary, enrolled as a sophomore or junior in high school. We did not limit it to only being Gary high schools because we have a lot of residents who do go to school outside of our city. The GPA requirement is 2.0. We will agree for them to adhere to a 2-year commitment of the program. So this program will be established as a cohort standpoint. We will look to open up the application process mid-November to early December, having the inaugural class start in January. The oversight of the Gary City Council will be by advisors of the council that will be appointed and I guess directed under the boards and commissions. Within that, there is a request for at least one of those advisors to be a member of the Gary Common Council. Per legislation, Indiana Code 36-4-13-1, within the establishment of the Gary Council, the youth members will have the ability to appoint a chair and vice chair. And so we will be asking the president of the legislative body to appoint that chair as a legislative body youth advisor. So again, this is allowed based on the statute 36-4-13-1. And just to confirm that legislative youth advisor, youth advisor, will not be a member of the legislative body. And that is confirmed under Indiana Code 36-4-13-2. There's some additional details related to the amount of advisors. We are encouraging the community to also be involved in this. So again, the advisor will consist of a city council representative, as well as any interested party who might have, I guess, ample qualifications as deemed by the Gary City Council. We have information in here related to how vacancies will be handled, information related to how, if members move outside of the range of the Gary's parameters, how the youth council advisors will be able to appoint new members. The application process will consist of an actual application with parental consent, a letter of interest that should be written by the student, as well as an interview that will be conducted by the advisors. Is there any other questions?
Councilwoman Atkins. Any other questions or discussions, I should say? Again, we're voting, make sure I do this correctly, on CPO 2020-30 as amended by substitution. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-30 is amended by substitution. And now we need to pass it on third and final as amended by substitution. Councilwoman Atkins is recognized.
I'm sorry, council members. I just want to make a point. This is an important part. So to establish continuity with the program, I think it was important for us to have some type of funding geared towards the program. So within this particular ordinance, there is a request to establish a non-reverting fund under the Gary Common Council to support the operational expenses of the program. The request at this time is for us to allocate $5,000 to that program. Again, it's a 2-year program, and then we'll revisit. There is a second condition under funding that states that we as a council will agree to allocate funds for the program as long as the Gary Youth Council is deemed active. The condition for it to be deemed inactive is that no members will be a part of the program for a consecutive 3 years. So the program will be 2 years. So if there are no members present for 3 consecutive years, then it will be deemed inactive and therefore no funding will be needed to be allocated. I just wanted to make sure that I stated that because that's a very important piece. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Atkins. Any questions or discussion?
I have a question. I'm going to vote for it. I'm not sure I'm following it here. Inside of the general fund, there will be a fund designated as the youth program. Is that what it will be inside of the general fund? That's a question.
So,
Can I address them directly?
well, I want to just chime in. There is already a fund set up already that we did with the council when we set up the youth council years ago. So there's a fund that's already set up already.
And it's active in spite of the fact that it has not been used. It's still, so it's an unreverting fund already inside of the general fund?
Yes, sir. And there is funds already there. I'm pretty sure. I would just take a number off. Between $400 to $600 should be in that fund right now.
That's sufficient. I wasn't clear on that. Okay, that's sufficient.
Any other questions or discussion? We will now vote on CPO 2020-30 as amended by substitution. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
President, we need a motion.
I'm sorry. Is there a motion to pass CPO 2020-30 as amended by substitution?
Mr. President, I make a motion to pass CPO 2020-30 with amended by substitution.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Council Members Barnes, Caldwell, and Atkins. I think we've already had questions and discussion. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-30 as amended by substitution passes and is so ordered. Before we moved further along, I did neglect to, we need to accept some funds that were donated to the city. I'm going to read this on behalf of the Finance Chair, Councilwoman Brown. This is a
Thank you.
memo to Arlene Colvin, the Controller, from T. Fitzgerald Williams, the Recycling Director. Please note the Lake County Solid Waste Management District donated the following funds to assist with the tire recycling program. The check is for 6 tire trailers at $1,400 each, totaling $8,400. Attached is a copy of the check and the invoices. So is there a motion to receive said funds?
President, I move that we receive those funds.
Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Brown and Councilman Barnes Caldwell. Any questions or discussion?
Just a brief question. Are we appropriating it as they're requesting to make, we can receive it, but we also have to appropriate it?
I believe it's already been received and used, but I will turn to Attorney Colvin to clarify.
No, it has not yet been used.
It's not been used.
It will have to be appropriated, and we'll do that when we submit the recycling budget in November with the other grants and special revenue funds.
Other grant budgets.
Okay, so we'll delay appropriation until November. All right. Thank you. Any questions, other questions or discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
President Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, the aforementioned funds are received with a date of appropriation for November of 2020. Please proceed, Madam Clerk, with CPO 2020-40.
CPO 2020-40, an amendment to ordinance 581, section 21074K regarding the hiring of Academy certified police officers in the city of Gary, Indiana, sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary, Chief Brian Evans, Gary Police Department.
The administration has asked that this ordinance be removed from our agenda, withdrawn. Is there a motion to withdraw CPO 2020-40?
So moved, Mr. President.
It's been moved by Councilman Brewer. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Any questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-40 is withdrawn.
CPO 2020-46, an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Article 9, Section 829 regarding commanding officers for the fire department, sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary.
The administration has also asked that CPO 2020-46 be withdrawn. Is there a motion to withdraw?
So moved, Mr. President.
It's been moved by Councilman Brewer. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Council members Barnes Caldwell and Witherspoon. Any question or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-46 is withdrawn.
CPO 2020-50, an ordinance appropriating monies for the purpose of defraying expenses of the General Parks Court CCI, CCD, NPH LRS fire pension and police pension tax-based funds of the city of Gary, Indiana for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2021 and ending December 31st, 2021, including all outstanding claims and obligations, and fix any time the same should take effect. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary, Arlene Colvin, City Control.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Brown,
I move the CPO 2020-50 be referred back to committee.
is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell, any questions or discussion?
What is the purpose of referring it back?
Councilwoman Brown,
There needs to be some further discussion.
any other question or discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Brewer,
I don't know if Councilwoman Brown want to take up moving the amendment to the agenda at this time right now, and we discuss the agenda inside of committee. I have a agenda that was printed off for changes for 10/6/2020 today.
You have what?
Amendment for CPO 2020-50 is dated for 10/6/2020. It came out today.
And Mr. President, may I say something too?
yes, Attorney Colvin.
I'd just like to remind the council that the public hearing on this budget was advertised for tonight, which would allow the public to speak. So that's something that has actually been statutorily advertised, and I just need to remind you that this is all a part of a state law process.
Right, and it seems as though we will need to defer the public hearing until October 20th if we're going to have committee meetings on October, I'm assuming, October 13th.
Well, that would mean we'd have to re-advertise. I need to check the advertising dates.
Okay, well, whatever we do, we want to make sure that we're in compliance with state law.
Mr. Chair,
Attorney Williams?
yes, the requirement is that the advertisement is 10 days prior to the meeting, so that there's sufficient time to re-advertise.
Thank you,
said
Attorney
there
Williams.
is.
Councilwoman Brown?
There is sufficient time, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay. Okay.
So it looks like
Mr. President, I'm not sure there is. I mean, you say it. 10 days prior to the 20th would be the 10th.
Right, today is the 6th.
Right.
So as long as advertising happens before the 10th, there would be 10 calendar days.
Yeah,
prior to the-
if they can get it into the paper.
It's
by that
not
time.
just the calendar days, it's when the newspaper actually has it in the paper. That's what
Right.
Okay, so we may have to push our meeting to the 27th if that's necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah, you may have to have a special meeting.
We may have to, right. We will
Yeah.
do whatever it takes to make sure there is a full, thorough, and complete,
Yeah.
discussion, examination, and understanding of the budget. And I have a lot of questions and concerns and information I'd like to have before voting on it. So we will, whatever we have to do, I think November 1st is the deadline, I think, for it to be turned into the state, or otherwise last year's budget will stand.
That's right.
Okay.
So,
So we did have an amendment, I think Councilman Brewer is noting, and I did get the notice from Attorney Colvin.
Yes.
What are you making a motion? Councilman Brewer?
Yes, Mr. President, one quick question. When we talk about the public hearing, how are we going to do that? Are we saying we open the chambers to the public, or, I mean, cause if you open it up via the way we're doing now, you can open up to the world pretty much. So what system are we going to put in place to do the public hearing?
I will defer to the Finance Committee Chair on her preference. I think my personal opinion is that we should do a hybrid model. I know that for me, it was very helpful to physically, I understand the safety concerns, there's no doubt about it, but it was very helpful to physically be here. I mean, there were some documents we didn't have the copies of, we had to go back and make copies. Sometimes the presenters had to give us information. So trying to do something that's so rigorous and detailed, line by line on Zoom, is difficult. However, I recognize the public health crisis that's going on, and so I think there's a way in which we can do a hybrid model whereby those of us who want to be in the chamber, I plan to be, there's 3 of us in the chamber tonight, can do that. And I would request that those who are presenting from the various departments also be physically present if possible. And of course, following social distancing, mask wearing, temperature checking, and all the protocols that we followed at our finance committee meeting last month. But ultimately, I will defer, of course, to the finance committee chair.
Well, my question was so much about us. How are you going to entertain the public?
I think the public should participate online. For us, in order for us, because we're going to have a lot of staff in here, and there's only so many seats. And so I think we should have online participation where they will be able to be allowed to speak and ask questions, and we can take those questions at that time. That's what I would recommend for when we get there.
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Brown.
Mr. President, there were several questions regarding the budget that we did not have answers for. And so my reason for sending this one, and there are some others on here that I would like to send back to committee because there are questions.
Right.
So, you know, we can have them, they can come back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can have the public come back, we can have anybody come back. But there were some questions that need to be answered. We didn't have answers for them.
Point of order, Mr. President.
Councilman Lay.
I think the issue is going to the public, not staff. In other words, that's what I thought the question was, but as usual, what do I know? I get mixed up a lot.
No, so I was suggesting that the hybrid
right. is to take care of the public. Another suggestion, and I'm going to make it whether you use it or not, what we should do at this point is to withdraw the motion to refer back to committee, allow the amendment to come on, and then refer it back to committee. But I don't know. I'm sure other members of the council would have a better suggestion than that.
Well, my motion was to move it back to committee. Now, that was my motion.
Okay.
I understand that. Therefore, you're missing the amendment that Councilman Brewer is talking about. Right. See, in other words, I'm not trying to stop it. That's okay. Excuse me. Go ahead. Do it.
So I think that we're all saying the same thing. It's
no,
just that.
No, we're not. No,
well, we're trying to get to the same place.
Right. I agree to that. We're trying to get there, but we're having a difficult time getting there because of the messenger again.
No, not the messenger or the message. As amended, it's amended as of today. And so I think what Councilman Brewer is saying is that he wants to make a motion to amend CPO 2020-50 by substitution. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And we can do that and then send, if it passes, I'm sure it will, CPO 2020-50 as amended by substitution to the committee for, I'm assuming, October 13th.
I think I said that, but it sounds better when you say it. Sounds a whole lot
saying the same thing. So we're aligned this meeting.
It'll be understood. It'll be understood now. It wouldn't be understood otherwise.
Oh, that's not true. So Councilman Brewer, you want to make the motion?
Yes, Mr. President. There's not a motion on the floor, is it?
Yes, there's a motion on the
There
floor.
was a motion to send it back to committee.
So,
yes.
Councilwoman Brown, can you withdraw your motion for a moment so that way I can go ahead and ask for the amendment to happen?
Okay, I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay, and then we'll come back and pick yours right back up.
Okay.
President.
Okay, Councilman Brewer.
Mr. President, I make a motion to amend CPO 2020-50, amend by substitution.
Been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Council members Barnes, Caldwell, and Atkins. Any questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-50 is amended by substitution. Councilwoman Brown?
Councilman Brewer, I have a question for you.
Yes, Councilman Brown.
There are several other ordinances on the agenda that need to be amended because there was information we did not have. Now, I don't know if you want to amend those as well, if you had additional information for them.
Just this one.
Yeah, so it's one more that
Have
needs,
additional information.
yes, there's one more that's going to have to be done the same way. That's CPO 2020-51.
Oh, those are companion ordinances then.
Yes.
Those are, okay.
So I guess I don't want to be out of line for doing it. So it's okay if I go ahead and just amend that one now? Any adjustments by
Sure.
more?
Attorney Williams?
They would have to be done separately
Okay,
because the clerk has only read out the one ordinance.
That's right.
right. Okay, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-50 is amended by substitution.
So that was
Did I do that
two.
twice?
50 and 51.
And now we have 2020-51, which has not been read yet.
Point of order, we gotta have the motion referring back to
We
committee.
gotta refer back to committee.
Yeah.
All right.
We need a
Councilwoman
motion to
Brown.
do that.
Council-
Mr. Brewer, would you make that,
20,
would you make that motion that it be, not necessarily make it, but explain what I'm saying? You gotta go back to committee, explain it.
Attorney Lay, Councilman Lay is correct. CPO 2020-50, we need a motion to move that back to the Finance Committee at this time.
You've lost me. You've lost me, Councilman Brewer.
I'm sorry, Councilman Brown. So we need you to make a motion to move 2020-50 to the Finance Committee at this time. We have already did the amendment already. Now you are requesting for it to go back to committee. So we need you to make the motion to do that.
You have the amendment.
Yes, we
Yes.
have the amendment.
Okay. All right, then my motion is to move CPO 2020-50 back to committee.
Yes.
Second?
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any questions or discussion? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
He's muted. He's muted. Councilman Weatherspoon?
No, it's you.
Is it me?
Councilman Williams,
Okay, yes.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-50 as amended, substitution is referred back to the Finance Committee.
CPO 2020-51, an ordinance approving salaries for the employees of the City of Gary's General Parks, Hoyt, MVH, pension, and fire tax-based funds for the calendar year 2021. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary, Arlene Colvin, City Controller.
President.
Councilwoman Brown?
I move the CPO 2020-51 be moved back to committee.
I think for this one, we need to amend it by
This one
substitution.
needs
as
to be
well.
amended as well.
Yes.
Yes,
You have the amendment?
yes.
Okay.
So if it's all right, Councilman Brown, I'd like to make a motion. Well, she didn't make a motion yet, did, right? Okay, then. Oh, I'd like to make the motion to amend by substitution CPO 2020-51 at this time.
Okay.
Second?
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Any questions or discussion? I will just say that I want to quickly thank Attorney Colvin for adding in the sanitary district salaries,
Right.
as well as the 2020-21 comparison, because I think that makes it a lot easier for us to understand what's going on. Any other questions or discussion? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-51 is amended by substitution. Councilwoman Brown.
Okay, Mr. President, I move that CPO 2020-51 be moved back to committee.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilman Barnes Caldwell. Any questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-51 as amended by substitution is deferred to the Finance Committee.
CPO 2020-52, an ordinance approving salaries and operating budgets for the City of Gary's Community Development Block Grant Program, Program Year 2020, Emergency Solutions Grant Program, Program Year 2020, Home Program, Program Year 2020, Neighborhood Stabilization Program, Program Year 2020, and Home Foreclosure Prevention Program, Program Year 2020, sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, Arlene Colvin, Interim City Controller, Community Development Division, Department of Community Investment.
Mrs. Colvin, I have a question. Now, we need to pass this on second. There needs to be a second hearing for this, right?
No, you can pass this on final. It doesn't.
And pass this one on final reading.
Yes.
Okay, so you don't have to do this one on a second reading.
No.
Okay. Okay. Mr. President, I move for passage of CPO 2020-52.
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Overview at this time.
Mr. President and council members, this ordinance 2020-52 is an ordinance that appropriates and approves the community development block grant funds that the City of Gary receives for program year 2020. It covers the community development block grant program, the home partnership investment program, and the emergency solutions grant program. For 2020, the City of Gary will receive $3,268,801 in community development dollars. In home dollars, we will receive $558,067. And in ESG funds or emergency solutions grant funds, we'll receive $289,178. The budget sheets that you have before you are the show how those funds will be allocated by program. For the record, I'd like to say that in general, in terms of the community development program, the allocation is $1,206,137 devoted to housing projects, $203,661 devoted to public facilities, $419,547 devoted to public services, $377,345 devoted to demolition, and $220,000 devoted to code enforcement. There are other allocations or other programs being funded in the budget, but those are the major programs that are being funded at the Finance Committee.
Okay.
If you have any questions, I'll entertain them.
Any questions for Attorney Colvin?
I don't have any questions, but these are the programs when people who need repairs done to their homes come to community development to ask for dollars to get the repairs done to their homes, right?
That's exactly right. We also provide assistance for tenant-based rental assistance. You know, now people are, you know, have problems with their rent. If COVID situation, we have funds devoted to that as well. So yes, these are those funds.
Okay. All right.
All right, thank you, Attorney Colvin. Any other questions or discussion for Attorney Colvin? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-52 passes and is so ordered.
CPO 2020-53, an ordinance appropriating monies for the recurring expenses of the Gary Chicago International Airport tax-based funds of the city of Gary, Indiana for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2021 and ending December 31st, 2021, including all outstanding claims and obligations, and fixing any time the same shall take effect. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary.
President, I move for passage of CPO 2020-53.
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Brown and Barnes Caldwell. Is there an overview at this time, Attorney Colvin? Or I think Mr. Hayden is on.
Yes,
Good evening, Mr. President.
Thank you.
And distinguished council members. We're doing well. As everyone knows, aviation industry has been impacted heavily due to the COVID pandemic. I'm looking at our key performance indicators for operations. For a snapshot, in September of 2019, we were at 2,017 operations. This year, 2020, we were at 1,714. So that's 303 fewer operations and a 17.7% less due to COVID. The year-to-date impact of the airport because of the COVID pandemic, 2019, year-to-date, we were at 16,451 operations. And this year, thus far, we're at 14,284. Again, that's over 2,100 fewer and a 15.1% impact. We're still doing good moving forward with operations efficiency development projects to supplement our tenants and airport users. By the grace of God, we have had no staff or tenants reported impact by COVID, but we did receive a grant for a taxiway rehab phase 2. That grant total is about $4.2 million. It's going to be 3,500 feet, phase 2 of our taxiway. This is needed for the larger aircraft, especially with UPS coming on board. I will be sending out to all council member and other leaders a save the date VIP invitation for the start of UPS operations. That event will be celebrated October 30th. I'll get that notice out to you tomorrow, sir. Another capital project will be our runway safety area grading project. That was a compliance item. We should have that finished by Thanksgiving. About a 400,000 foot, 400,000, cost project for some grading. It is an airport, so we're moving into our winter snow and ice control prep. Also in November, we'll have our Part 139 certification inspection. our master plan, we'll have a technical advisory committee meeting in November and hopefully public hearings in December if all goes well. And the customs facility, we were at 133 total since the October 2018 operating of our customs facility. We only had 3 international flights last month, September, and again, 24 countries that are there. So we're doing well. The budget was adopted to address the shortfalls because of COVID, but with UPS coming on board and our tenants just continue their business and prospering, hopefully 2021 will recover and continue the upward trend for the Gary Chicago International Airport. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you, sir. And I'll just quickly say thank you for your work and your efforts. I'm sure it has been a tremendous load to bear this year with COVID-19. And I want to express my strong support for the Gary Chicago International Airport, for the compact, for us maintaining this asset and not selling it. This is, to me, one of the best assets that we have as a city, and we should continue to preserve it, to grow it, and to improve it. I'm excited to hear about UPS. I know that's been several months, years in the making.
Yes, sir.
Happy to see that come into fruition, and looking forward to hearing more good news coming out of the Gary Chicago International Airport.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Other members, questions or discussion? All right. Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. President.
Attorney Colvin,
Mr. President, tonight is the night for a public hearing.
we have to do that.
Only public and no voting takes place
No
tonight.
voting, right, okay.
Okay, I stand corrected. So the public comment, you will need to raise your hand. And so I'm going to rely on my media team to help us identify anyone who is seeking to speak.
Mr. President, I will ask, I think he's coming now.
So at this time, we are opening for public comment on the appropriation of monies for the purpose of defraying the expenses of the Gary Chicago International Airport. Do you note anyone from our media team that is seeking to raise their hand or to comment?
You have a comment in the chat box from Tony Walker.
Yes, Mr. Walker can also speak if he'd like, because he's a panelist. Attorney Walker, would you like to speak?
So, Mr. President, I would just ask if you would probably do the panelists first, and then that will give the media team a little time to see if anyone should raise their hand, and we can go from there.
Is there anyone who already has access that would like to speak? Okay, he has no comment. I don't see anyone on this end that is looking to speak. And our media team doesn't have anyone. There's 46 participants, there's 17 attendees. I don't see any hands going up on my end. So if not, then I think that's that. We've offered an opportunity for public comment. I know this is a difficult situation and that we're doing this in an unconventional way, but I would just remind the general public that, again, we stand corrected. We're not voting on this evening. If you would like to call the council office at 219-881-1315 and leave a comment with any of the administrative staff, please feel free to do that. We also have the Gary Common Council Facebook page if you want to write a comment on this Facebook Live. We also can view your comments that way. So we don't have any comments.
Mr. President, There is a message, how do you raise your hand on here?
Who's that? Someone is asking how they raise their hand?
Yes.
Who's asking that? This is on the Facebook stream or something?
Yes.
Oh, they can't. I'm sorry. So on the if you're viewing us via Facebook, you cannot comment through Facebook because it's only pushing out a video to you. The only comment you could make is on the live feed. If you want to make a comment on the stream there, feel free to do that. Our media team will relay those comments to us. We don't have to have people get them.
Right, okay.
At this point. But again, 219-881-1315. If you would like to call the Gary Common Council office to make your comments known, you can also comment on the Facebook page if you are watching us via Facebook. Okay. Madam Clerk, we shall proceed.
CPO 2020-54, an ordinance appropriating monies for the purpose of operating expenses of the Gary Public Transportation Corporation of the City of Gary, Indiana for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2021, ending December 31st, 2021, including all outstanding claims and obligations and fixing any time the same should take effect. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilwoman Brown.
Mr. President, this ordinance also, this is the first reading, so there has to be another reading for this one as well. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments on this one.
I don't have any. I know we had a discussion at the committee meeting last month.
Right.
With Mr. Parker, as well as Mr. Washington, the CFO.
Right.
So you're saying that we need to sign it on first reading?
Right, this is, yeah.
This is a nice public hearing.
Public hearing.
And
If
then,
anyone wants to
yeah.
speak, they can speak.
Gotcha. Do you want to do an overview first, or we're not doing that? We don't need to do that. We don't need to do an
I
overview,
think
correct?
they did an overview at the meeting.
Right. Okay, is there anyone who would like to speak on CPO 2020-54 related to the Gary Public Transportation Corporation? Again, relying on our media team. If you see someone who has logged on via Zoom, is there someone who has a question or a comment? Okay, I don't think we see anyone at this time. Okay, we don't have record of anyone. Again, you can call the council office.
Right.
To offer a comment. Okay. Please proceed, Madam Clerk.
CPL 2020-56, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Gary, Indiana, authorizing the issuance of the City of Gary, Indiana Economic Development Refunding Revenue Bond Series 2020A, Drexel Foundation for Educational Excellence Project, and the City of Gary, Indiana Taxable Economic Development Refunding Revenue Bonds Series 2020B, Drexel Foundation for Educational Excellence Project, and the loan of the proceeds thereof to Drexel Foundation for Educational Excellence Incorporated, and authorizing and approving other actions in respect thereto. Sponsored by William G. Godwin, Esquire, First District Council.
President.
Councilman Brewer.
Mr. President, I move for passage of CPO 2020-56 on third and final.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilman Brewer and Councilman Barnes Caldwell. We will have an overview at this time. I will just say, by way of overview, I want to make sure our media team has made Richard Leverett as well as Mr. Michael Suggs, both of whom are board members of Theo Bowman, made them panelists so that they can comment should they like to. I want to thank, I think he's still on here, Attorney Tony Walker, who has done a yeoman's job of orchestrating this initiative and getting the Gary Bond Bank off the ground with this first transaction. Many of you probably know that Theo Bowman is a charter school in our community that educates a lot of children. They have a fantastic building. They're looking to refinance some of their bonds. This is not to exceed $19,500,000. We've asked Mr. Adam Sturwall from the great law firm of Barnes and Thornburg to provide an overview of two things. Number one, how the Gary Bond Bank functions fundamentally, the fact that there is no liability to the city, but how we function in our role. I thought it was important to go through that to lay a foundation, because I'm sure Attorney Walker and the mayor's team will have more transactions. That I think is a very good thing, that we're being entrepreneurial in how we function as a city. And so I want all of us as council people and the public to hear about how the Gary Bond Bank functions. And secondly, to go over the details of this particular transaction vis-a-vis the Gary Bond Bank. So I think we want to start with Mr. Sturwall, and then if Mr. Leverett and Suggs would like to chime in as board members of Theo Bowman, we certainly would want to hear from them. Attorney Sturwall.
President Godwin, members of the council, thank you for allowing me to come and present tonight. First, to just go over the bond bank. Their bond bank is a great asset for the city, will provide future flexibility in financings. Right now, this will be the first Gary Bond Bank financing. I believe in the past, you've gone through the Hammond Bond Bank. Other second-class cities across the state also have a bond bank. There's an Indiana bond bank, and when you go through those, you also have to pay a fee. Now, with the Gary Bond Bank, you will, instead of be paying the fees, sort of collecting the fees, at least the bond bank will. But the bond bank will allow for greater versatility and flexibility in all kinds of different financings. Looking specifically at this financing, I have a diagram to share with you guys. Can you all see? There should be an orange, yellow, blue, sort of with some fun green arrows on that you guys can see.
Mm-hmm.
So how this sort of structure works, it is a refunding. So there is no new money, projects. It is just creating a savings for the school, and sort of taking a step back and looking how this structure is set up. So the city of Gary, down here on the lower left corner in the orange, it will issue its bonds. The Gary Bond Bank will simultaneously buy those bonds by issuing their own series of bonds to an underwriter. And then coming back on the other side of the green arrows are the sale proceeds. So the Gary Bond Bank will take the money it receives from its bonds, buy the Gary Bond Bank bond, or buy the city of Gary's bonds, excuse me. Then the city will loan those proceeds pursuant to a loan agreement to Drexel, which is the formal entity for Theo Bowman. And then Theo Bowman will then pay off their 2009 debt. That is prior to any assignments. So this page 2 is sort of more how the structure will actually work in practice. The city will also still sell its bonds to the bond bank. Bond bank will sell the underwriter, but the cash will actually, instead of flowing all the way through, will go to a trustee, and the trustee will actually then pay off the bonds on behalf of Drexel. Sort of the overview of the repayment of the bonds. So here on the left, the Drexel owes, pursuant to the loan agreement, the money to Gary. Gary then pays their bonds to the bond bank, and then the bond bank is able to pay the bondholders. However, after all that, you just assign all the payments to the trustee. So here on the right, Drexel will make their loan payments actually to U.S. Bank as the trustee, and then they will make payments to the bondholder. I went over all that very quickly, but it's once you look at sort of the assignments, you're probably asking yourself, why is the city of Gary and the Gary Bond Bank involved in this financing at all? Gary doesn't receive any funds, and they're not obligated to pay any money back. The answer to that question is purely federal tax reasons. To be able to take advantage of tax exempt debt, there needs to be a governmental issuer, which the city is sort of acting in that capacity. This is sort of known as a conduit issue. And in tax circles, which believe me are just huge parties, the city issues the bonds but sort of steps out of the transaction. And so there's actually no liability whatsoever for the city to ever repay the bonds. It is all on Drexel, but what you're providing is the ability for them to lower their borrowing costs by taking advantage of tax exempt debt. Happy to go over any more details on that, but if I could just jump forward one more spot on the procedure of how we got here. So for the city to issue its bonds, it's going through the economic development statute. And in order for that to happen, the Economic Development Commission has to hold a public hearing, invite the public to speak, and then pass a resolution recommending this financing and recommending the forms of bond ordinance, trust indenture, and loan, and loan agreement. The Economic Development Commission did hold a public hearing yesterday. It had a notice in the paper 10 days in advance. We requested the public to come and to speak. They were allowed to submit comments via email or attend the Zoom meeting and speak. No members of the public spoke at the meeting or submitted any comments. The EDC did adopt their resolution recommending this financing. And so now the ordinance was coming to you for approval. If you decide to approve, the bond bank will meet on Friday to adopt its necessary resolutions to then go to market and to eventually sell and close hopefully later this month. I know that was a lot. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you, Attorney Stirwall. It's very helpful to have a visual. I really appreciate that. I'm getting a little feedback here. Any members have questions for Attorney Stirwall?
Mr. President.
Councilman Lay is recognized.
Who's purchasing the bonds? And who's the underwriter again? I'm a little bit unclear.
D.A. Davidson is the underwriter. I believe that they have a couple of purchasers lined up and interested. Some of them, I think, are the current bondholders, but that is, all subject to change who their purchasers are. But D.A. Davidson is acting as the underwriter.
What is the percentage of interest on these bonds?
That'll be determined at sale, basically market rates. I do not, so that has not been set, but I believe they are, the estimated net present savings is a couple of $1 million to the school over the term of the financing.
Now, I did have the opportunity to talk to Mr. Suggs. He called me today. And I understand this is for Thea Bowman, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. What is the Economic Development Commission? Tell me what that is and who that is.
So that is a city commission. I believe it was created or last used, I should say, for U.S. Steel. It is a commission required by statute to undertake certain financings. I believe the mayor has a couple of appointments. I think the city council has an appointment or two, and then maybe Lake County also has one. But they are appointed, and they sort of review these requests, and then they also hold the public hearing and then make the recommendation to the city council.
Now, obviously, again, I'm mixed up. It is my understanding, we're not talking about the commission where Councilman Brewer is the president, are we?
No.
That's the corporation.
No. That's
Okay, so, I just want to get that straight, so he's not involved that way. Okay. That answered that. Mr. Suggs couldn't tell me that. All righty, that answers my questions.
Thank you, Councilman Lay. Any other members have questions? Mr. Sturwall? Also wanted to give, I think Mr. Suggs and Leverett, are you all on as board members?
Mr. Chairman, while we're getting
Mr. Walker,
Leverett, let me just answer a question that was raised by the councilman. The current interest rate on Thea Bowman's bond that they're paying on now is around 7%, and we expect that the interest rate will be around 5% for a total over the life of the financing of about over $2 million.
What is how much time on these bonds? 15 years, 30 years? What's the time on the bonds?
Adam?
I believe it'll go out to 30.
30 years.
I think that's what is authorized.
Right now, the current condition of the high bond, high interest rate payment that Thea Bowman is paying is taken away from money that we could be actually spending on academics. So we're very anxious to move out of that current financing situation and have a new bond rate, which allows us to put much more money toward the education of Gary kids.
One quick clarification, the current projection is the bonds will be paid off in 2055. So that's a little bit more than 30 years.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sturwall. It looks like Mr. Leverett is on, as well as Mr. Suggs. I'll give you all an opportunity to speak as board members.
Unless the council wants to hear, I would say good evening. As was stated by Attorney Walker and Attorney Sturwall, we're looking at a savings here of about 200 basis points, works out $1 million over time. We're trying to take advantage of the rates right now in the marketplace, get this refinanced. It also serves the purpose of just pumping more money back into the school. So even if, we're looking at $2 million, maybe a little more, a little less, depending on when the bonds close, that allows us to put all of that money back into the building. And so it fits in line with what we're trying to do there, be a good steward of the dollars and enhance the education there, and just monitoring the marketplace. So for the council and folks who might be listening, Richard Leverett, I am the treasurer of the Drexel Foundation for Excellence, which runs Thea Bowman Leadership Academy. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Leverett. Mr. Suggs, would you like to comment?
Good evening, President and Council. Thank you for this opportunity. I don't want to be redundant and speak too much, just asking for you to take a look at this opportunity to help the Drexel Foundation be fiscally responsible for the school and create opportunities for enhanced education of our students here in Gary, Indiana. So I ask for your support on this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Suggs, and congratulations again. It's not germane on your service with NiSource for so many years and your willingness not only to be a corporate partner, but to be involved in volunteerism with schools in the community. So I want to celebrate you on your retirement from NiSource, but your continued support of Gary nonprofits.
Well, thank you, sir. I'm certainly pleased to celebrate my 40 years of service to the community in greater Northern Indiana through NIPSCO NiSource, and am excited about my continued support of the community and the students in Gary, Indiana.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion on this ordinance?
Mr. President,
Councilman Brewer?
I just want to ask, is some of the funds that's taking place here, going with the reconfiguration of Thea Bowman? I know you all are moving to put everybody under one house. Just want to know if any of those funds going towards the reconfiguration.
These funds specifically are being utilized for the bond debt, but it does enable us to use funds to better support the education in the facility.
And I'll add to that, that after the current bond is paid off, there will be a substantial portion left over for us to do upgrades at the current facility.
Excellent.
Thank you. I was asking that question, and since I got so many board members on, let me throw this in now, to make sure that we can address the parking issue out there at Thea Bowman. Especially, I know we had, and I say that because my kids go there, there's a safety issue there when the school lets out, when it was last year. I don't know how it's going to be this year about school not being in-house right now. But when school lets out, there's a number of cars that's parked all over the place, and that's a very busy intersection there. When you have kids trying to go across the street, then just the parking, the congestions of the parking lot itself, if we can just take a look at that. I just want to throw that in because I know that discussion has come up, and I have had different conversations with other parents too about the safety aspect. But thank you all, and I look forward to voting for this on tonight.
Mr. President.
Councilman Lay?
I'm going to attempt to pronounce the last, Attorney Storwell. Isn't a short way of saying this is simply a refinancing for the purpose of reducing your interest? Isn't that really what we're doing?
Essentially, yes.
Yes, that's what I thought. That's all you're doing is refinancing to reduce the interest rate. And I certainly indicated to Mr. Suggs when he explained it to me, I would also be voting in the affirmative for this ordinance.
Thank you, Councilman Lay. Any other members have question or discussion? All right. Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Councilman Brewer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown.
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
Councilman Lay.
Yes.
Councilman Featherston.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
And President Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-56 passes and is so ordered.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
CPR 2020-14 resolution by the Gary Common Council in support of Edgewater Health for meritorious service during the COVID-19 pandemic and establishing August 9th through 2020 as National Health Center Week in Gary, sponsored by Cozy Weatherspoon, Councilman Second.
Mr. President.
Councilman Weatherspoon.
Yes, this 2020-14 has already been assigned to committee, with that meeting being on October 13th. Of course, you know, we had an extra week in there, and of course, during this last committee session, we had budget meetings, and therefore it was pushed back at a more convenient time for the council.
I don't think there's any action we need to take. You're just going to defer it to, I guess, it shouldn't be on the agenda, I don't think, right?
Right, it shouldn't be on the agenda. At our last council meeting, it was already assigned to committee for October 13th at 5 o'clock meeting. So that has been taken care of. There's nothing that needs to be done with this at this time.
Thank you.
I do have a question though.
Attorney Lay.
Because I had either way, it doesn't matter. Clarius is fine. I had a brief discussion with Mr. Witherspoon because I missed the earlier meeting or an attempt to have a meeting. I think only a couple of people showed up. Will you be changing the heading of 2020-14?
Yeah, you know, we're going to be changing quite a bit in that, you know, Councilman, yes, as well as the heading. as well, because as I had stated before, you know, it would be really unfair to recognize Edgewater as being, you know, the sole group for dealing with this COVID-19 when we have other medical facilities, and especially we have our own first responders that need to be recognized. So again, that's why, you know, it'll be going back to committee to make those corrections and then present it back at our council meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Lay and Councilman Witherspoon. Just want to confirm, Attorney Williams, we don't need to withdraw this. We don't need to do anything because it shouldn't be on the agenda, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
All right, thank you. Okay, council pending ordinances and resolutions on second reading. Councilwoman Brown.
Mr. President, I move for passage of CPO 2020-57 on second reading with the Finance Committee meeting on October 13th at 5:00 p.m., 5:30 p.m., and a public hearing on October 20th.
Been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. I missed that. What time did you say?
5:00.
5:00 p.m. Okay. Any,
Mr. President?
Councilman Witherspoon?
Yeah, my meeting is scheduled at 5:00, so it'll be, ours will be quick.
Your meeting? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
Arts, History, and Science, October 13th at 5:00, but it will be a quick meeting.
Okay.
It's at 5:00. Okay, 5:30 then.
Councilwoman Atkins?
5:30 work for you?
Absolutely.
Councilman Witherspoon?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely it does.
Okay, 5:30 then.
Okay, Councilwoman Atkins, are you trying to?
So, Mr. Chair, I just had a consideration for the finance chair to consider. We will also have to have a Ways and Means Committee, and so I know we have a lot that's, well, 2 or 3 in finance, is that correct? Or is it planning and development that has a lot in terms of assignments?
Planning.
It's planning and development, okay.
So planning should probably be last.
Yeah, I just
I'm
wanted
going
to
on another day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. President, point of order, what happened to 2020-57? What happened to that? We went to 67. We didn't, unless I misunderstood. I'm
I think
sorry.
we're still on 57. There may have been an error, but I think we're on 57.
We're on 57.
We are.
So, okay, so are you? Okay, so we're on 57. We're trying to find a time that will be amenable to everyone. I think
She said 67. I believe she said 67. It appears, and again, help me, Mr. Brewer. It was my understanding that Councilwoman Brown said 67.
I will help you, Councilman Lay. I said 57.
Yeah, help me, because I'm sure I'm confused between 57 and 67.
57 at 5:30.
Do you want to go ahead and do 67 as well? Is that possible, or do we have to do these separately?
We can't.
I'd like for them to be done separately, because I will vote no when that opportunity comes, because again, 57 was prepared by council staff as opposed to the way it should be provided. It does not bother the council, but it does bother me. So I would appreciate dividing the question.
Okay, so CPO 2020-57 has been moved and seconded to hear it on second reading, pass it on second reading with a
October 13th at 5:30 p.m.
5:30. Okay. Any other questions and discussion?
Discussion. I would, again, at this point, so it will never say that I voted for it somehow. I want to make it known that I'm voting against it here also because of the manner in which it is coming to the council. I believe in January, I thought we had cleared up, but I guess I was on the team in January where certain items were sent back to be straightened up when they were done by staff or anyone other than people or individuals within the law department pursuant to Indiana statute and our own rules. So two things are being violated here. Clearly Indiana statute and our own rules. So
Okay. Well, I think we're going to make the correction, but I certainly understand your position.
I'm not sure how you make the correction without sending it back. You mean you're going to retype it? Yeah,
It has to be amended at some point.
Yeah, but you would have to have a new, yes, you'd have to have a new ordinance.
Mr. President.
Councilman Brewer?
Well, you know, it's definitely stating that it was prepared by council staff, but it was also reviewed by the attorneys, corporation counsel in the docket. It definitely spells that out, that it was reviewed.
I'm sorry, Mr. President, paragraph 4 does not say reviewed, it says draft. But again, I'm sure Mr. Brewer has read it and it simply has forgotten it. It's under Indiana Code 36-4, 912, 36-4-9-12, paragraph 4. It does not say reviewed. It says it shall be. So it cannot, the council does not have discretion to change state law. Again, we dealt with this in January and we sent several back to the source for them to do that. I think rather than to send it through this way, somewhere in here, someone from the law department should, in fact, maybe it's an amendment, should in fact make it crystal clear that the law department is not reviewing. Matter of fact, that violates so many rules. I take 15 minutes to explain this. They can't operate with a non-lawyer. They, in other words, the council staff can't do something, then it's reviewed. That's just totally improper. That's absolutely improper. Even if it wasn't a statute, that's improper. So again, I think we should, as best as we can, attempt to follow state law. When state law gets in the way, you may try to get around it, but I think in the long run, you're going to have some problems.
Mr. President.
Councilman Brewer.
Councilman Lay is correct. I would ask if we will move with it and we will send this to the Corporation Council where they can move and present us an amendment to this, where they will actually prepare one and the change to be made.
Okay. So we're going to continue with the motion and on the table to send it to committee, correct?
Yes.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded. We had questions and discussion. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
No.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
No.
Councilman Williams,
No.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 5 yes, 3 no's.
With 5 yeas and 3 nays, CPO 2020-57 passes on second reading with a Finance Committee meeting to be held on Tuesday, October 13th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. In the council chambers.
CPO 2020-58, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petition Brian and Janet Doman, 4350 West Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana, property at 3314 West Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana.
President, I'm going to request, if there's no objection by any council member, if the clerk can read all of planning and development. I know we have quite a few.
CPO 2020-59, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petition Holly Jones and Mark Wheeler, 402 Pearl Street, Michigan City, Indiana, property at 8618 Pine Avenue, Gary, Indiana. CPO 2020-60, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petition Anna Martinez, 6101 East 6th Place, Gary, Indiana, property at 6101 East 6th Place, Gary, Indiana. CPO 2020-61, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Eugenia German, 372 Arthur Street, Gary, Indiana, property at 372 Arthur Street, Gary, Indiana. CPO 2020-62, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Mary Hubbard Bobo, 7734 Ider Avenue, Auburn, Indiana, property at 3978 Martin Luther King Drive, Gary, Indiana. CPO 2020-63, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner is Cheryl Moss Alexander, 3615 Carolina Street, Gary, Indiana, property at 3615 Carolina Street, Gary, Indiana. CPO 2020-64, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Kiera Jackson, 7534 Jomel Drive, Weeki-Wachee, Florida, property at 1954 Madison Lane, Gary, Indiana. CPO 2020-65, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Uses, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner is Nicola Kontaski, 127 North Broad Street, Griffith, Indiana, property at 320 West Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana. CPO 2020-66, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Marquita Cox, P.O. Box 931, Sherville, Indiana, property at 719 West 51st Place, Gary, Indiana.
Mr. President,
Councilman Brewer,
make a motion to move CPO 2020-58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66 to the Planning Committee October the 14th, that's a Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing October the 20th at 6 p.m. via the chambers.
Second.
been moved and properly seconded by Councilman Brewer and Councilwoman Brown. Any questions or discussion?
Yes, I would like to preference my vote at this point. Unfortunately, I don't have these ordinances. If they were not prepared by the law department, then my vote would be no. Since I don't know, I'm going to vote yes, but only because I don't have I was given the information, I just don't have it available to look at. But again, in order for me to vote in the affirmative, I'm doing it based upon an assumption that these were prepared by the law department itself.
Thank you, Councilman Lay. Any other?
Mr. President.
I'm pretty sure it was prepared by just for.
Mr. President.
Just 1 second. I want to just confirm something, if you will. Yes, these were prepared by Stephen D. Jenkins in the law department. So
My vote is unconditional yes, if that's the case. On all of them, if they were prepared that way.
yes. Councilman Williams.
I just need the date for the public hearing. Councilman Brewer, what was the date you set for public hearing?
That'll be Wednesday, the 14th at 5:30 p.m. And the public hearing is that Tuesday council meeting at 6 p.m.
Okay. Right.
All the meetings will take place inside the chambers.
Okay.
Oh, they will not be Zoomed any
Yeah,
There won't
longer?
be, yeah.
Yeah, they will be Zoom, but if anyone is coming down, we will be in the chambers conducting.
Oh, okay.
Okay. That's what I was trying to figure out.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Any other questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-58, 2020-59, 2020-60, 2020-61, 2020-62, 2020-63, 2020-64, 2020-65, and 2020-66 passed on second reading with a Planning and Development Committee meeting to be held on Wednesday, October 14th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. in a hybrid model via Zoom as well as in the council chamber.
Excuse me, Mr. President.
Councilman
Did
Williams?
you include CPO 2020-62 into that?
I believe
Yes.
I did.
You did.
But we will have it is going to committee on October 14th, correct?
Yes.
Okay, because I'd like to discuss that.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
CPO 2020-67, an ordinance revising the 2020 appropriations for the Police Department Operating Budgets Fund 254 Auction Fund for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2020, ending December 31st, 2020. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman
I
Brown?
move for passage of CPO 2020-67 on second reading. Finance Committee meeting on Tuesday, October 13th at 5:30 p.m.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilman Brown and Councilman Barnes Caldwell. Any questions or discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-67 passes on second reading with a Finance Committee meeting to be held on Tuesday, October 13th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. via Zoom and in person at the council chamber with a public hearing on Tuesday, October 20th, 2020 at 6:00 p.m. in the council chamber.
CPO 2020-69, an ordinance approving the amendment of garbage collection fees for users located in the City of Gary, sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Mr. President, I move for passage on second reading, CPO 2020-69, with the Ways and Means Committee meeting on Tuesday, October the 13th at 6 p.m. and a public hearing on Tuesday, October the 20th at 6 p.m.
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Atkins and Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Any questions or discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay?
at this point, will tell you I will vote no as to this ordinance and will continue to vote no. I believe under our present financial conditions as a community that no raises, be that belong to anyone, should be given, and certainly not a fee placed upon the citizens of this community. So my vote, 2020-69, from this point forward will be no. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Lay. I will only add, and I will say more about it at the committee meeting, that I think Mr. Dan Vicari should be a co-sponsor. You know, he, as I see it, is our go-to at the Gary Sanitary District. He's in charge. And I'd like to hear him and see him, I'm sure he'll be doing the overview, provide a clear and direct presentation about why they are requesting this fee. I have not decided how I want to vote yet. I'm inclined to agree with Councilman Lay, given the fiscal crisis that not only our city's in, but that the voters are in, the residents of this city. But I do want to, I know that there are consequences for what we do in terms of the services beyond trash collection that cities, that we'll be able to provide to citizens. So I'm hopeful that Mr. Vicari will play a big role a big role in this, and I think he should be a co-sponsor. That's my opinion, but we'll talk more about that in the committee meeting, should we get the votes to have a committee.
Mr. President, I do not believe that's accurate. The person in charge currently of the sanitary district is the chairman of the board.
Okay,
That person,
that's a fair point. I'd like
it's
to.
not Dan, it's not Mr. Vakari. I'm not sure who it is, but whoever is the president of that board is now in charge of the sanitary district. They have not appointed a special administrator, and someone mentioned to me, so I don't know the legitimacy of this statement I'm about to make, but you look to the president of the board. So
Well,
that's the person.
I agree, and I hope that that individual and other board members will come, because this is a big ask, and we definitely want them to be part of the committee meeting. Councilman Witherspoon?
Yeah, Mr. President, I just kind of wanted to take the moment and echo Councilman Lay's sentiments, because, we are imposing a lot of financial requests upon the citizens of this community, and I mean, of course, we're looking at a sanitary increase. We're asking for an increase on property tax due, from the referendum, and I don't know if anyone noticed, but, we are in a recession right now, and people continue to lose their jobs. I'm hearing every other day, it's thousands of people, major corporations that are losing jobs. Here alone in this community, we've watched the merger, or the purchase, I should say, of ArcelorMittal, which employs many in Lake County. And that company that has purchased them, Cleveland Cliff, has already stated that there will be consolidations. People are hurting. Heck, just personally, I went to the grocery store the other day, man, and, just for some lettuce, some ground beef, and some bologna, it almost cost me $12. And imposing these extra fees on citizens, and especially in this community where we have one of the most highest unemployment rates in the state, where we're paying more in taxes within this community in the state, it's really unfair. So, again, my vote at this point in time, although I probably have to get more information, but my vote at this time will also be no. Thank you.
All right. Any other members for question and discussion? I will just say, I think to echo that, I definitely know that, as Attorney Tony Walker is commenting, that there will be losses in terms of community cleanups and other activities that the sanitary district does that's far beyond its core mission. And so whatever we do, there will be consequences in terms of the services that we are able to provide to residents that they have come to expect and we have come to rely on. But be that as it may, I look forward to learning more, hopefully at our committee meeting.
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay?
that statement is not quite accurate. What the sanitary district can do, let's just for the sake of discussion say that this ordinance is voted down. The sanitary district can, in fact, go to the federal government. The consent agreement is still in place. So the federal government could authorize the sanitary district to make the decision one way or another. In other words, I don't think our vote here stops the decision or reduces what may take place. I'm just simply saying I'm not willing to do it. But they have a right to go to the federal government under the consent decree and determine whether or not they're going to be allowed to do it, or the federal government can give them an instrument through which to raise these fees independent of the council. They can do it independent of the council. So,
all right, I think that's very interesting. And so Attorney Walker has commented, he is the attorney for the sanitary district. There is no longer a special administrator. I know that historically a special administrator could act singularly if the council did not approve or ratify what the board, because the board's already voted on this, which is why it's now coming to us. So I think there's a lot of questions that hopefully we will get answers to, and I'm hopeful that I'm sure Attorney Walker will be present at our committee meeting, as well as members of the board, Mr. Vakari, Mayor, whoever else that can shed light on what we do, what the consequences are, and I look forward to the conversation. I know there's consequences either way, but look forward to the conversation. Seeing no other questions or discussion, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
No.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
No.
Councilman Lay,
No,
Councilman Witherspoon,
No.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 4 yes, 4 no's.
Well, you know who I'm going to call on, Attorney Williams. I think it fails because it doesn't have 5 votes, but
Yes, this is one of those unique situations where it failed and therefore the process stops. It will not go further into committee.
Mr. President,
Councilman Brewer.
this is appeal to my colleagues to at least hear the sanitary district out to see exactly what's going on and see what we will be losing before we just, and my vote may be no also, but just at least give them a chance to hit them out and see which direction that they will be going. What should happen if we do pass it? What will happen if we don't pass it? I would like to just hear it out.
I don't care what we do, my vote is gonna be no. So I'm just letting you know now, my vote is going to be no.
So I do want to read, I know that we're probably acting out of protocol. Councilman Lay, don't get me yet.
I was going to, may I say one thing?
Councilman Lay?
Yes, and I hate to bring subjects back up, but I do believe a person has been killed in one of the service stations since, I believe the date would have been September the 15th. And the council, our police cannot go on private property for someone say that something else is not being policed. When we simply ask for the opportunity, and I think it's more important in terms of the death of an individual than, of course, fees that I think can be raised through another source, irrespective of what the board says or what Mr. Dan Vicari says, that they can go to another source, which is left up to the federal government, how that is done. But I certainly don't see any reason to change my vote here when I tried to get an ordinance heard that Mr. Jenkins and I, both being attorneys, of course, I was surprised they ignored Mr. Jenkins. I was not surprised I was being ignored. But there was a statement made, we didn't have the time. So again, we have a lot going on. And do we have the time to review this? So my vote is going to be continuously no, and currently the vote is 4-4. You will have to change your vote in order to take this into any committee. I believe it's dead.
Mr. President, and also if you can check the chat with Attorney Walker, just send out.
So what I want to say is I want to make a distinction that I think is with a difference. We did have a committee hearing on the gas station ordinance. Now, when it came for third and final, as opposed to bringing it back to committee, the option of the chair of that committee was to take it for a vote. That's what we did. I think here we're not even allowing it to go to a committee. Now, I've read the letter from the EPA, and I'm aware that they've chosen not to leave the special administrator role vacant for now. And if they want to fill it later on, they have the option to do that. One of the reasons they said they're leaving it vacant is because they felt like the sanitary district was being run responsibly and that we didn't need a special administrator. Of course, I may be wrong, but I believe the special administrator historically had the power singularly, if the council did not act, to act in order for the work of the sanitary district, in order for it to be compliant with the consent decree, to do its work. If a fee increase was necessary, that person would be able to do it. So we know that the cost of what we're doing is greater than the dollars that are coming in. So the dumpsters, the work that's happening with filling, I mean, there's so much work that the sanitary district is doing, snow removal, well beyond. So either we're going to have to make some cuts in our budget and take over some of these responsibilities, or we're going to have to properly fund the trash collection fee. I'm not saying I'm going to vote for it, but I would hope that we would at least give the board, the attorney for the sanitary district, Mr. Bakari, the opportunity to explain why we are here. And that doesn't mean we're voting for the increase, but
Mr.
it's
President.
unfortunate that they won't have the opportunity to explain it. Councilman Witherspoon?
Yeah, you know, I would like to change my vote just to hear them out, but let me make this clear. You know, I am at this point in time overdone, and I mean it, overdone with what we are requesting of the citizens as it relates to increases in fees, increases in property taxes due to referendums. Again, these times right now are unique times, very unique times. And I understand that we, you know, have city services and things that may be at stake. At this point in time, I'm not in favor of an increase, but I will be in favor of hearing them out. Again, this is just a bad time for everyone financially. You know, again, and I'm going to emphasize this, we are in a recession. Many people are hurting. People are losing their homes.
And I agree with Councilman Witherspoon, because we are asking a lot. I mean, a $10 increase is dramatic. Now, I'm hopeful that if we're able to have a committee with change of vote, we'll move to reconsider, that we can find out if there's other options, if there's ways we can, if we need to do it, to gradually have a graduated, a tiered program or some kind of way where it's not such a huge increase. But Attorney, if I may, I may be objected, Attorney Walker is on the call, and if we can, I would like to give him an opportunity just for a minute or two. He didn't told me he wants to, but he's making a lot of comments. If you will, Attorney Walker, can you just shed some light on this?
It's very simple. I mean, we're running over a $500,000 deficit on trash collection, and we cannot continue it. Right now, we're in a situation where we're trying to clean up the city. We're trying to make dumpsters available to council people, trying to clean up neighborhoods. All of that's going to go away because we cannot continue to pay for trash collection using funds that are restricted to other uses. So either we have got to raise the rate to pass that on to make sure we can cover our trash collection fees, or we either decide, one, not to pay it, and then we'll have a serious problem with our trash collection services, or two, we have to use illegal sources to pay for it. Neither of those are acceptable, and we have just gone to the federal government in January and told them, hey, we no longer need a special administrator. We have a council that's fiscally responsible. I mean, the whole initial institution of the special administrator came in 1987 because the council wouldn't pass a rate increase. And the federal government came in and seized our authority and said, okay, if your council is that fiscally irresponsible, we're going to put a person in charge that can override them. We're not trying to go back to that now. So we're trying, we have sold them on the idea that you all are fiscally responsible and that, you know, we're going to do what we need to do to cover our costs. Now, we understand that this is hard for everybody, but there are two situations here. We either have to reduce the amount of collection expense, and until we do that, we have to authorize amount of money that is necessary to cover that expense. And Dan, do you have anything to add to that?
Mr. Bakari? I think he's muted.
Dan's just with us in name, but I'll just leave it at that. It's that simple. None of us want to do this. And Councilman Witherspoon, Councilman Lay, I totally agree with you because it's going to increase everything that all of us are paying, but it comes down to just basically either paying your bills or not paying them. And then, you know, trying
to pay my bill every month.
True. But it doesn't cover the cost, Councilwoman.
I pay my bill every month.
And that's the issue. The current
does
not cover our costs.
Okay.
That's what making the move to clean up the city.
All right.
All
So
right.
we don't want to have a back and forth, but I'm going to recognize Councilman Weatherspoon and then Councilman Lay.
You know, one of the things we talk about dumpsters, we talk about cleaning up the city, and it is a major problem. And what I would ask of the administration, what I would ask of the sanitary district, we're going to have to start looking at, you know, thinking outside of the box and looking at some means as to how we can sustain. Sustainability is the key in cutting costs in this situation. Because I mean, I've heard it over and over and experienced it myself over and over, cleaning up the same dump sites. You clean up one, there's two others to take its place. I don't know what the answer is, but I do know that it lies in sustainability. So I would ask that when we're looking at this, and when the city administration is looking at it, when the GSD is looking at it, they also look at it in terms of sustainability, because that will in the long run save money.
I know that there is an issue in terms of people paying their bills. Some people just refuse to pay their bills. Okay, I know that that happens from when I used to work there. Some people just wouldn't pay their bill. I pay my bill every month. So, you know, I'm not, my answer is going to be no.
Councilman Lay?
Yes, I don't fully agree with everything, but again, I'm sure Attorney Walker said what he believes. He said part of the consent decree, federal government did not want to deal with 9 people. It wanted 9 people, or 9 individuals. It wanted to deal with 1. But again, it's somewhat like what is this referendum. In other words, I am positive the council will not pass this increase. And again, Mr. Garvin, I haven't polled the council, but I can just about guess. The surprising vote may be mine is no. I believe the council itself is going to vote no. So we're going to slow it down for about 2 weeks or a month, whatever is done. So I guess we would do it in the final Tuesday. What I'm suggesting is the mayor and the sanitary district should look to how they can get funds other than through this increase, or take the responsibility for the increase. It's quite similar to my argument with the referendum. In the Senate bill, there is something you can do in order to approach the State Board of Finance and ask for money. It has never been done. So again, we are in disagreement. I do not believe anything that Mr. McCarry can come forward that we can vote for it. Even you, Mr. Godwin, you talking about some kind of stairway of doing it, you know, so much at any one time. So
Attorney Lay, this council has voted for an increase before. This is not the first time we've done it. This is not new. We've done it before.
Councilwoman Brown, I basically at the time was representing the council, and the question came up whether you could vote and Shirley Stanford vote.
And I voted.
I understand. So you're explaining, you're sort of preaching to the choir now. I understand it was done because it was necessary for me to go to the state to get authorization or to confirm that you could vote. The MCC and many people out of the first district didn't want you to vote. So I understand that. What I'm simply saying, if this council, and I do not believe we're going to slow it down for a month because Councilman Witherspoon has now changed his vote. That's certainly his prerogative. I don't take issue with that. But I believe 2 weeks from now, the answer is going to be no. So my question to Attorney Walker, let's just assume that the answer is no on terms of raising the fees. Do you have any solution as to what will be the next step for the sanitary district other than the services?
A point of order.
Let me first say that
Mr. President, a point of order.
The last increase was in 2012.
Right.
So that's 8 years ago, and the costs have risen in those 8 years. So our position is that we're going to hopefully sit down and talk with each of the council members and lay out the financial facts, and hopefully someone will actually see that this is what we need to do to be financially responsible for the city.
If you did it individually, in my opinion, I'm sure other council will have a different opinion, you would be violating Indiana open door law.
Mr. President, I'm going to have to ask a point of order at this time.
Councilman Brewer.
We basically have turned this into a committee meeting on the floor here, and I will ask if there's a vote to reconsider that we move on that and we take this discussion inside a committee at this time.
Mr. Chair.
I have a point of personal privilege at this point. What has been allowed is for Mr. Walker to make various statements. I only asked, was there an alternative to the statement? Now, I do understand, again, I understand the message in the messenger. I'm the one that's taking additional time. As long as he was allowed to do something, that's all.
Mr. Chair.
Attorney Williams?
Yeah, there's no need to do a motion to reconsider. You never reported out the outcome of the vote, and Councilman Witherspoon changed his vote prior to you doing that. So he would simply need to change his vote on the record, and it can go to committee.
Well, thank you. And I just wanted to be clear. The letter I read from the EPA responded to a petition to make the mayor the special administrator. And their response was that they didn't think that was needed. So I guess this will play into that. And I know we wanted the mayor, that there was a petition for the mayor to be the special administrator. They decided not to go that direction. And so I'm sure they are watching what we do.
Yeah, they absolutely didn't want a special administrator, Council President.
Okay, well, maybe the letter I wrote was responding to something else because it said it received a petition for it. But in any event, I think we're clear on what we're doing, that it is passed.
Let me just make a point, Mr. President. You did report out it was a 4-4 and it died for a lack.
Yeah, so I think we need to have a motion to reconsider. Is there a motion to reconsider CPO 2020-69 on second reading?
Mr. Chair,
Attorney
again,
Williams?
I'll defer to you. Of course, you can do that out of abundance of caution. I assure you it's not necessary. You simply reported out the total. You did not say that the motion failed. Prior to you doing that, Councilman Witherspoon changed his vote. But if out of abundance of caution you want to do that, that's fine.
Let's do that for the record. I think given how much discussion and contention there's been. Is there a motion to reconsider CPO 2020-69 on second reading? I move to reconsider.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. I don't think we need any questions of discussion, but I don't see any. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
No.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
No.
Councilman Witherspoon,
You're muted.
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Councilman Williams?
Sorry about that. I was muted. Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes.
President vote is 6 yes, 2 noes.
For 6 yeas and 2 nays, CPO 2020-69 passes on second reading with a committee meeting to be held on Tuesday, October 13th, 2020. I believe that's at 6 o'clock p.m. via Zoom. With a public hearing to be held on Tuesday, October 20th at 6 o'clock p.m. Please proceed, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chair,
Attorney, Councilman Williams.
could you repeat that, please, for me?
The Ways and Means Committee meeting on CPO 2020-69 will be next Tuesday, October 13th at 6 o'clock p.m. Via Zoom.
Okay.
CPR 2020-16, a resolution by the Garrett Common Council in support of Red Ribbon Week proclamation and establishing October 23rd to the 31st, 2020 as Red Ribbon Week in Gary, Indiana, sponsored by Linda Barnes Caldwell, Councilwoman of this district, Gary Common Council.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Brown?
We're gonna have an overview on Red Ribbon Week by Commander Tyrone Douglas of the Lake County Sheriff's Department.
Because you're going to move to pass this on all three readings, correct?
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Okay, Attorney Williams, how do we I want to make sure we do it correctly.
There needs to be a motion to suspend the rules and pass on all three readings at this time. I'm sorry, Attorney Williams.
They probably accept your legal opinion.
That's okay. That's okay, parliamentary.
I knew one of y'all was gonna get me. I knew it.
Yeah, they thought, well, your legal opinion would be accepted at all times. They will get in trouble with it, but you give it
That's
to them.
okay.
I feel good about that.
He's not practicing law, I don't think.
Oh, of course he is. He's giving legal opinions.
Attorney, let me lay that down. Y'all know that, right?
Yeah, well, no, that's good.
So is there a motion to suspend the rules to consider CPO 2020-16 on all three readings?
Councilwoman Atkins. This your opinion.
Are you making a motion?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay. Do we need to vote on that consideration now, Attorney Williams?
I would think it's best to do the overview so you can know what you're voting on, but you can, because this is just to suspend the rules.
Right. So let's go ahead and vote on suspending the rules, and then we'll take up the substance of the resolution. Any questions or discussion? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, we have suspended the rules to hear CPR 2020-16 on all three readings. This time, we will have an overview.
Greetings to the Gary Common Council. My name is Tyrone Douglas. I'm a commander of the Lake County Sheriff's Department, and I appreciate this opportunity to recite the resolution for the Red Ribbons Week for the city of Gary. A resolution by the Gary Common Council in support of Red Ribbon Week proclamation and establishing October 23rd to the 31st of 2020 as the Red Ribbon Week in Gary, Indiana. Whereas alcohol and drug abuse in this nation have reached epidemic stages, and whereas it is imperative that visibility, unified preservation, education efforts by the community members be launched to eliminate the demand for drugs, and whereas the National Red Ribbon Campaign offers citizens the opportunities to demonstrate their commitment to drug-free lifestyles, no use of illegal drugs, no illegal use of legal drugs, and whereas the National Red Ribbon Campaign will be celebrated in every community in America during Red Ribbon Week, October 23rd to the 31st, and whereas business, government, parents, law enforcement, media, medical institutions, religious institutions, schools, senior citizens, service organizations, and youth will demonstrate their commitment to healthy, drug-free lifestyles by wearing and displaying red ribbons during the week-long campaign. And whereas the Gary Common Council further commits its resources to ensure the success of the Red Ribbon Campaign. Now, therefore, be it resolved, we of the Gary Common Council do hereby proclaim October 23rd to the 31st as Red Ribbon Week and encourages its citizens to participate in drug prevention education activities, not only during Red Ribbon Week, but all year long, making a visible statement that we are strongly committed to a drug-free Gary, Indiana.
Thank you, Commander Douglas. Any questions?
You're welcome.
All right, seeing none, Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 8-0, CPR 2020-16 passes and is so ordered.
CPR 2020-17, Gary Common Council Resolution in support of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, sponsored by Linda Barnes Caldwell, Councilwoman of 5th District, Gary Common Council.
Mr. President, at this time, we would like to suspend the rules for all three readings.
There's a motion to suspend the rules to hear CPR 2020-17 on all three readings. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell and Council members Brewer and Atkins. Any questions or discussion?
I just had one. Isn't October breast cancer month? I noticed we're doing it at the same time. I'm not saying you can't do both, but isn't October this month breast cancer?
It is.
Yes.
Okay, so we're now going to be doing them both. That's fine. I was just making sure I had that right. No further questions.
All right.
I don't know what you're laughing. I'm so wrong before this council that it began to make me lose faith in my training. But
I'm going to start applying for some CLE in these council meetings. I need some credits. So.
No, you couldn't. Well, all you have to do is sit around the counter. You can get those. You don't have to apply. Just send the money in. Just send them, you don't have to do anything. Just don't. Well, you can fall asleep and get the credit.
Right. Just be present. All right. So we're now going to take the vote on hearing CPR 2020-17 on all three readings. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPR 2020-17 is considered on all three readings. This time, Councilman Caldwell will have an overview.
We're going to have an overview on the domestic violence by Mr. Sheezy George from the
Commission of Women.
Women's Rainbow Shelter.
All right.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm going to apologize now. It's going to be a few minutes over. My name is Tashizia George with the Gary Commission for Women, and we manage the Rainbow Arc Shelter, which caters to victims of domestic violence. You've called me one name too many, none of which my parents gave me at birth. You've raised your hand to strike me. You've torn down my self-esteem and pride. I've had enough, and I will no longer hide. Hide behind the secret of abuse suffered at the hands of you. I don't care what society says about how I should look at you, that you're a dignitary and I should keep quiet. You are a law enforcement officer, serve in the military, or even sit on boards in the church. Why should I suffer by your hands and hide my hurt? I have had enough. You have ridiculed me for the last time. You have dehumanized me, and I will stand for it no more. I am no longer afraid, and I am making my way to the door. I have had enough. I am taking my life back. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I was not created in order for you to degrade. You isolated me in order to keep me weak. Your plot was to keep me bound and under your feet. But I have had enough. I said enough. That was a poem by Nicole L. Ellis, and that was from her Sunshine's Reflection blog. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, a time to be more aware and let people know that we are here for them. You may know someone who is being abused either emotionally, physically, financially, mentally, or socially. Just continue to pray for them and find ways to offer them help. My hope is that every victim of domestic violence becomes a victor. My hope is that we all reach the moment when we say enough and get involved in prevention efforts. The resolution CPR 2020-17 that you see before you this evening is in support of Domestic Violence Awareness Month for October 2020. And I'll go ahead and read that now. Whereas to remain silent is to participate, and whereas when we prevent domestic violence, we promote safety within our families and show respect for the dignity of all citizens. And whereas it is imperative that families remain focused on the urgency of this issue, and whereas when an incident of domestic violence occurs, it cannot be kept a private matter. And whereas violence and abuse and family relationships have negative effects that go far beyond the couple and or family involved. And whereas domestic violence places stress on children, extended family, friends, and neighbors. And whereas domestic violence undermines the ability of families to be resilient. And whereas according to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, nearly 20 people per minute are victims of domestic violence by a domestic partner in the United States, including 10 million men and women per year. And whereas 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have experienced some form of physical violence by an intimate partner within his or her lifetime. And whereas 1 in 5 women and 1 in 7 men have experienced severe physical violence by an intimate partner in his or her lifetime. And whereas intimate partner violence accounts for 15% of all violent crime. And whereas in domestic violence homicides, women are 6 times more likely to be killed when there is a gun in the house. And whereas 3 to 10 million children are witnesses to domestic violence in their homes. And whereas research has shown children who witness domestic violence do not get help and are more likely to become victims or perpetrators of future abuse. And whereas nearly 3 out of 4 Americans personally know someone who is or has been a victim of domestic violence. And now therefore be it resolved that on behalf of the people of Gary, Indiana, the Gary Common Council recognizes the survivors and victims of abuse whose courage inspires us all. And be it further resolved that the Gary Common Council is committed to offering a helping hand to those most in need and remind them that they are not alone. And be it further resolved that Councilwoman Linda Barnes Caldwell and the members of the Gary Common Council do hereby proclaim October 2020 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the city of Gary, Indiana. We call on everyone to speak out against the violence and support local efforts to assist victims of these crimes in finding the help and healing that they need. Again, we're calling on everyone to say enough. Speak out against domestic violence and support our local efforts. If you need any more resources, help, questions, or just a lending ear, you can also reach me at 219-883-4155, or you can even email me at tgeorge@gary.gov. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. George, for all the work that you do. It's more than words for you. It's action. It's your calling and ministry. And we thank you for all that you do for the residents of our city and community. Any questions or discussion on the resolution? All right. Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPR 2020-17 passes.
Mr. President, as pending ordinance and resolutions on second reading.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have now reached the point in our agenda where we will have the mayor's report and question of city officials. Attorney Colvin, Chief of Staff.
Had to unmute, sorry. First of all, council members, I wanted to bring something to your attention with regard to the public hearing on the budget. Since November 1st, which is the deadline for passage of the budget, is on a Sunday. That means that the last day to actually adopt the budget is November 1st. I'm sorry, November 2nd. With that being said, the last day that we could actually have a public hearing without reverting to the 2020 budget is going to be October 22nd, really. But since we have a council meeting on October 20th, that is probably the last day. That's the day that you would probably want to set for a public hearing. And one of the reasons why I'm bringing that up is that you might want tonight to decide whether or not that's the day that you actually want to have the public hearing. I have to publish the notice of the public hearing 10 days. It has to appear in the paper 10 days before it actually happens, which means that I would have, if it was on the 20th, I would have to publish by the 10th. So that means that I have to check with the newspapers to make sure that they can get it into the paper by the end of this week. There has to be 10 days between when the public hearing is and when you adopt. So that's why I'm suggesting October 20th, if that's what you want to do. But those are the timeframes that you're working within. I just want you to know
that. Thank you. Councilman Lay?
Yeah. What papers are you going to publish in? You're going to get in there?
We normally publish in the Times, something that's of a, or the Post-Tribune.
Okay.
I guess it could be in the Crusader as well, right?
Well, you would have a problem getting in the Crusader.
It depends on their timing.
Okay.
Meeting those time frames.
Yeah.
By Wednesday, I guess, is when it would have to be for the Crusader.
Which would be tomorrow.
Yeah, they would have to, and they would have to be prepared to put it in there by tomorrow.
Right. So generally, we try to do two. So if I had time for the Crusader, then it would be the Crusader and either the Times or the Crusader and the Post-Tribune is generally in one of the two larger newspapers as well.
Okay. So is there any other input or notices you wanted to make us aware of?
I just wanted to know if that is what you plan to do. Are you doing October 20th as the public hearing?
I'm fine with that, but I'll defer to the Finance Committee Chair.
Okay. I'm looking for direction. I guess that's what I'm getting at.
October
20th.
20th?
At our next council meeting.
Next council meeting. Okay.
All right.
That'll be the public hearing.
So, yes.
Okay.
All right. I did want to, I know we had made some requests. Some of those have been fulfilled.
Yes.
In the Finance Committee meeting on the budget, the initial one we had. I wanted to, again, thank you for making the revisions that have already been made. I did want to know year to date, and I think this may be relevant for the Ways and Means Committee hearing on the GSD rate increase. I'd like to see, I know they haven't voted on it yet, I don't believe, but I'd like to see what their projections are for the sanitary district in terms of their 2021 budget. I mean, I think if we're considering a rate increase, we need to see what dollars they're spending and how those are being spent over there. Secondly, I'd like to see year to date. I know we have what is going to be paid to city employees and elected officials for 2021 from the sanitary district, but I'd like to see since January 1 of this year, who has received and how much they've received in terms of funds from the sanitary district, from the mayor on down. So whatever someone has received.
We have given you the listing that you have.
That was the total amount. I want to know year to date how much in terms of dollars the mayor and others have received from the sanitary district for this year, not the projected amount for next year. I also wanted to follow up. I sent an email, two of them. The Corporation Council did respond, I guess now a few hours ago, that basically I have not opened up the investigations committee. I will do that on the 20th if necessary. I can't vote for this budget until I have answers to those questions and related to the use of all of the vehicles that are on the mayor's detail, but in particular the Yukon XL. I have had many disturbing reports presented to me, and of course I don't reveal who tells me what because I protect people's identity and privacy. But in any event, I want to know the records, so you have the email. In terms of the requests that I've made, the Corporation Council says he will treat it like any other citizen making a FOIA request and respond to me in a, quote, reasonable time, unquote. But that's not satisfactory to me if reasonable time is not defined to be prior to our voting on this budget. So the questions I've submitted, if I don't have an answer to those by the next council meeting, then I will ask this council to open the investigation committee to subpoena those records. Lastly, since January, there has been a request to have a state of the city. A date was given because I had said I would not assign to committee a budget ordinance until we at least had a date for when the state of the city would be. I was given the date of October 30th, I believe, which I think obviously would likely be after and we vote unless we have a special vote on November 2nd. Again, I do not plan to vote on a budget until and unless we've had a state of the city, which draws out where the finances are. It falls on deaf ears that we don't know what the finances are, because how can we propose a budget if we don't know what the finances are? So whatever we do know, that needs to be explained, as well as the priorities, the vision and philosophy for this. No other council has needed to ask for some of these things. But in any event, it's public knowledge, public record, and it's public expenses. There's been a lot of talk about how we use our funds and being responsible and not wasteful in those uses. And so I look forward to getting answers to those questions. Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. President, so I'm clear. You're tying the 21 budget to the state of the city address? I've never heard
saying I won't vote on a budget, me personally. I
think you're the leader. So,
I won't vote on the budget.
I understand.
Until I've heard of state of the city. We're now almost in November.
Right. Is that possible?
Well, I cannot vote. I mean, the date that we've been given is October 30th.
Right. So that's not possible then.
Well, unless we vote on November 2nd. If we have a special meeting on Monday, November 2nd for the budget.
May I ask the chief of staff, can we do that? Can we have a meeting on the 2nd to approve the budget?
That's the last day that the budget can be approved. Now, what I will say is I don't know I know the budget has to be filed in Gateway and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I don't know if it gives us enough time, especially with us meeting in the evening.
Right.
I was just giving you the dates. My assumption was that it would be approved before that, but that's an assumption, of course.
Right. I think Gateway would be shut down following the council meeting. I don't think we can do it on.
That's something I would have to look into. I don't know. I can't tell you right now. But as you say, I I think the assumption is you're filing your paperwork on the 2nd, as opposed to getting your budget passed in the evening on the 2nd. If you see.
Well, I would suggest that the mayor move the date up myself. I mean,
I agree.
Well, I wasn't sort of looking for agreement. I was just suggesting that he move it up, but agreement might give it some weight. Well, I get along with the mayor pretty good, but I think he should move it up. And in other words, I would assume he's not going to, the staff and whoever's going to write the state of the city is going to have it prepared prior to October the 30th. I don't think you should cut it that close myself. I think everything on this budget is being cut too close. The 20th for the public hearing, I think is close when you don't have to do it that way. The mayor can, in fact, and I hate to cite it because I said
we do have to do it that way now, Councilman, since we.
I understand. No, I understand now. But I'm saying what the mayor can do under 36-4-5-3, he has the authority to call the council into meeting. And I would suggest that he does that prior to October 30th. He has the authority to call us. And certainly, since for the first time that I'm aware of, a budget is going to be tied to the State of the Union, you may end up with the 2020, where the first 2 years of this administration would be budgets that were put in place by a lame duck mayor. In other words, you've already went through 20 with a budget that was proposed under the Karen Freeman Wilson administration. If there's a reversion back, you would be under again. So that means of the 4 years, 2 years you're spending under that budget. I would think somehow you got to get it away from, that October the 30th. If not, we might as well stop sort of joking with ourselves and say, we're really going to revert back to the 2020 budget, which certainly wouldn't bother me because I think their pay raises in the 21 budget I've been informed of, I don't agree with anyway. So that would be a consideration that I think the mayor, certainly can give to it, and he can call the council into meeting. That I can't think of any better reason to do it than to allow his budget to be revert back to 2020 again.
And I will say that I agree with Councilman Lay. And the reason why this is so important, I'm reading some of the comments in the chat. Whatever the city's finances are in, that's the state of the city. So if you're still trying to figure out where the dollars are and what the dollars are, then that's what the state of the city should be. This is what we're doing. This is what we're working on. But I just don't feel comfortable voting on a budget. We've been talking about the state of the city since January, February. You simply say what you do now. I don't see how you propose a budget without some knowledge of what's going on, what exists in our various bank accounts, what the vision is, what the plan is, in terms of where we're going, the direction for the city. So that's my reasoning behind my position on it as it relates to the state of the city. I also want to quickly respond to comments around the vehicle and the GPS tracking. This is historical data, so it's not future in terms of where the mayor will be going, which of course would be a security concern. This is looking back in time to see if the rumors that I have heard are true. And hearsay is no good. I want the facts. So if there's been inappropriate use of the vehicles by the mayor or others who've been driven, then we will know that, and that can be addressed. So again, it's not present and future movements, it's historical data to see how the vehicles have been used. I don't have anything else, but any other member have a question?
Yeah, Mr. President, just for clarity's sake and just to educate me, what do you consider as unclassified, or should I say unnecessary use of the mayor's vehicle?
I think the vehicle, first of all, there's 3 vehicles to my knowledge that are part of the mayor's detail: a Yukon XL, a Ford Expedition, and a Ford Explorer. That's 3 vehicles. We know that the police department has asked us for more vehicles. They've complained about not having enough officers on the street. I think that it should be limited to just transporting the mayor, and if the mayor is with someone, then that would be appropriate. taking the mayor back and forth to City Hall, to community events, to the airport for conferences, et cetera, not family or other personal uses or people being present when the mayor isn't present. And we're the only city I'm aware of in Northwest Indiana that has any detail of this kind. City's been far better financial shape, and I understand the security issues for the mayor having that. I think when you have 3 vehicles, you can't drive but 1 vehicle at a time. So it's imperative to understand how these are being used, especially when our police department is complaining about the lack of officers on the street and vehicles to be used, good working vehicles. So I want to know the facts. I've heard the rumors. I've heard about people being taken to work. I've heard about kids being dropped off at school. I've heard all kind of stuff, but I prefer to deal in the facts. And so I think the use of appropriateness would be to and from City Hall and for official city business of the mayor. All right.
How many vehicles were present in 2019? All these are new vehicles that we're talking about purchased?
There was only 1 vehicle to my knowledge, and that's the Yukon XL. There's been a purchase of a Ford Expedition and a purchase of a Ford Explorer this year. Now, we're complaining about the finances being in shambles, but again, we're spending money and we're saying we don't know how the finances are. So I think that you can't have it both ways. That's all I'm saying, is that our job is oversight. And so I intend to do that. And it's not personal. It's not about ambition. People want to get on the radio and say that. I have a very great career that I enjoy. It's about operating in oversight and responding to citizen concerns. So that's my position. Any other question? And oversight is my job. It's our job for the finances of this city because we'll be voting on a budget. So I'm very aware of what my job is and don't need any chat education about it. Any other conversation related to questions for city officials?
Well, Mr. President, mine is towards that budget date or the 2nd, November 2nd. I would just recommend that we try our best to stay away from that as much as possible. It will work well for us, but I know in the past, the controller has definitely stated great concern about us pushing the last minute, where we'll put a great burden on whoever, which would be Ms. Arlene Colvin, trying to enter all this stuff into the database in a timely fashion there. So I just want to strongly recommend that we try best to stay away from that November 2nd date. We're thinking of you, Ms. Colvin.
About whether we're going to make the publication date.
Oh, you said?
I'm looking at the notice requirements, and I'll have to tell you tomorrow, but I'm not sure. We may have missed it. Based on when items go into the newspaper, but I don't want to say that without looking at this a little bit more closely. But I'll let you know tomorrow.
After you let us know what occurs.
If we can't meet the publication dates, we won't be able to pass the budget in enough time. So we'll be automatically at the 2020 budget.
Oh, okay.
All right, any other questions of city officials?
Yeah, Mr. President, I just want to take this opportunity in time. I noticed that Chief Evans is back with us, and I also noticed that Ms. Sherry Smith is back with us, and I just want to say welcome back. I understand they both were dealing with some issues. Just want to take the time and say welcome back.
I echo that. Thank you, Councilman Weatherspoon. Any other members?
Mr. President.
Councilman Williams.
Have you looked at the chat?
I have. I'm not. This is our meeting. I know my roles and responsibilities, and I know my power is to ask questions about anything that is happening in this city. And I think that's very well documented.
Yeah, I'm not citing you. I'm just saying. I just
looked at it. I'm
Yeah.
aware. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And adjourn. Have a great evening.
Good night, everybody.